Hello, and welcome to the 200th episode of the THC Show. Man, time flies, that is for darn sure.
Only when you're having fun.
On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from Cannabis.ca.
Okay.
Joined us from...
Oh, fuck.
Of course, we're having technical difficulties on the 200th show. Why not?
Why not, right?
Good idea.
Yeah, there we go. I forgot you got to take the case off.
My multi-purpose... Oh, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, that's
so
what I got to do.
Bounce around a little bit, people. And hang on for the ride. We're not charging anybody any extra.
There we go. All right, we're good now.
For the psychedelic start to the show. For those of you on psychedelics, there was other things going on that maybe would be, seem a little more reasonable if you knew. Otherwise, you're just having a really good trip there. On the trip today, which is the THC Show, we're going to have 8 out of 10 Glenn from Cannabis.ca join us for the 420 session and beyond, as always. And we're going to have a variety of characters come on the show today and they give their 2 cents worth, tell me what they think of having to put up with me for 200 shows and all the rest of that. So join us for all of that. I'm your humble reporter, Neil Magnuson, and I'm here to inform you that unfortunately, even after 200 shows, the level of corruption in our world has not seemingly gone down at all, and the fight for rights and freedoms is still ongoing, and seemingly up against more and more odds every day as their so-called legalization seems to get more and more entrenched. But there's court cases coming up, and we're going to see what we can do about that and put a dent in the Trudeau cartel. It is just so ludicrous that here, after 100 years of prohibition and demonization and criminal sanctions against people who would dare to access this such dangerous plant that could harm people in such significant ways, apparently, that they had to use every tool in their toolbox, including the full extent of the criminal law, and no holdbacks on how much expenditures for police resources and all the rest of that's been going on in Canada for 100 years and continues to go on here today, while they continue to throw massive amounts of resources and police resources into trying to protect the Trudeau cartel, this hostile takeover of the cannabis industry that happened almost 5 years ago now, coming up in October 17th. They've brought in a form of legalization that continues the oppression and all of the wasted money and all of the mechanics of the prohibition machine to be remaining intact and operating, while at the same time this plant, this natural herbal medicine that they've demonized and lied about for 100 years, no apology, nothing like that, just all of a sudden now you can have it. Now you can have it on your possession and be smoking it around police officers. Police officers are allowed to smoke it. There's government stores making money off of you coming in there and buying it. And yet it's still this dangerous, dangerous commodity on the other side that requires all of this money and enforcement to make sure that nobody gets any unregulated cannabis, because shit, that stuff must be dangerous, right? Because otherwise, why would public servants think they're justified in spending so much money in trying to keep people from using the unregulated source? It can't just be to protect the dollars for Mr. Trudeau, can it? Well, it appears that's what's going on, and that's what I'm here to report to you today. That in this crazy upside down, backwards and inside out world that we're living in, this country that we all thought was the country of freedom and reason turns out to be just as corrupt as all the rest of them, and that we are just as much enslaved by a system of required obedience as anybody else in the world, and that includes the communist parts of the world, that includes the dictators out there in the world. We are certainly not free, and we should all be seriously appalled. We should be horrified. We should be angry as fuck, and we should all want to do something about this. This is so bad. This is like, you think you're living your life, and everything's going along, and it's all normal and reasonable, and this is okay. The government knows best for us, and they've got our best intentions in mind, and then all of a sudden, the rumors that you've been hearing from your friends and family who you thought were just conspiracy theorists turns out to be true. That they're in control of you. They're not public servants. And they're already going to come after you for a whole bunch of stuff that makes you not free at all. And if before that you happen to be living in a world of which none did not exist prior to 100 and some years ago, in which case it did exist, and I can imagine what those people would have thought at the time if the conspiracy theorists around them were saying, they're coming for the weed, they're coming for the cannabis, they're coming for the medicine. They're not going to let you take it. They're not going to let you have it. They're going to do everything they can to make sure you don't. They're going to provide you with their alternatives that are going to be nasty. They're going to cause all sorts of disease and discomfort that they're also going to be able to make money off of you from. And then it happens. They come for the cannabis. It could be, in our world, maybe they're coming for the tomatoes, or maybe they're coming for something else that you rely on. But I can't think of anything offhand that is as bad as them coming for the cannabis. Even though I've lived in the world of cannabis prohibition that's been going on for long before I was born. I've woken up from it. I realized just how horrible this is. This is a plant. It's simply a plant. These are the dried flower tops of a plant. It's not poisonous. It's not dangerous. It's beneficial. It's helpful beyond, much belief about how helpful it can be. It's an anti-inflammatory, if you have any concept of the value of an anti-inflammatory. It's a sleep aid. If you happen to have issues sleeping, you know how valuable a non-toxic sleep aid could be without any nasty side effects or wearing off or becoming ineffective or all the other nasty things that happen with the pharmaceutical answers to this plant. And that's at the root of it. Is the big pharmaceutical companies, the oil companies, the cotton companies, the textile companies, all of these different big industries just didn't want to compete with cannabis. They had their own thing. They were pretty good at making money on it. They don't want cannabis in the marketplace. On the pharmaceutical side, really, really easy to understand. Not hard to understand that a plant that contains cannabinoids, as other plants do as well, but those cannabinoids are representative of the same molecular structures created by our own human bodies to maintain the homeostasis and balance in our lives due to trauma and other things that could upset it. So when you need an anti-inflammatory, your body creates anti-inflammatories out of the long-chain fatty acids for the most part, some of those essential things that are hard to find in nature, and completely mimicked by the cannabinoids on the cannabis plant and other plants, but primarily on the cannabis plant. If you don't believe me, you just got to Google the endocannabinoid system. That's what they had to name it. Because when they tried to prove that these molecules within the cannabis plant were dangerous and had no medical benefit, they found out exactly the opposite. That those molecules match exactly the molecules that the human body creates out of your diet that help you with all kinds of things that you need help with. It is medicine like none other on the planet. Many plants have those cannabinoids. Many plants have other medical properties, lots of them. But the one that really has the most benefit medicinally, bar none, is definitely the cannabis plant. Yet this plant is what they have prohibited. What these so-called public servants have seen fit to either believe the lies or continue the lies about, that gave them some justification to prohibit accessing this plant. The criminal law on free human beings for accessing a medicinal herb that has nowhere near the harmful potential of most of the other plants in our environment. Many of the other plants in our environment are downright poisonous. Many of the plants in your home are poisonous. Roses have thorns. Pretty dangerous, especially for young people, but even adults who get caught up in them. No prohibition. No bans. Not even any warnings. They leave it up to mothers and fathers to explain to their children that some of these plants can cause severe itching or scratching or whatever. It's not their role necessarily. Unless there was an outbreak of somebody, some group of, governed people harming themselves with some natural plant due to ignorance, then there'd be a little role for those public servants or even the dictators to come along and say, hey people, careful. Apparently you're not aware that these plants can be harmful. But to outright use the criminal law, that plant's got to be far more than dangerous, you would think. Probably explosive, probably contagious. Cannabis is certainly none of those. Cannabis is the plant that drove economies, that was the basis of medicine for thousands of years on this planet. An ancient plant that has been used by the life on this planet to develop endocannabinoid systems for millennia. It is so upside down, backwards, and inside out, and it ain't hard to see it. It's obvious now. What isn't obvious is how outraged everybody should be about it. I guess that's the point. You can go buy commercial cigarettes. Look something like that, rolled up in paper, supposedly, or at least originally, derived from plant matter. Easy to get that. Not prohibited, not banned. Regulated. You have to put warnings on them. That's what regulations usually are. In the case of tobacco, they also put age restrictions. Because tobacco turned out to be really dangerous to be igniting and inhaling, or at least that which they're putting into cigarettes. Tobacco on its own probably is not as carcinogenic. Certainly not if used in moderation. Ceremonially, traditionally, once in a while, probably not going to hurt too many people. But once they started mass advertising and mass producing and mass distributing, the production required measures that put a considerable level of toxicity into those tobacco cigarettes. A considerable level. After a couple of decades of people consuming en masse every day, it started to become pretty evident that it wasn't harmless. Now we have millions of people every 12 months that die, drop dead from cigarettes. We have many, many millions more that suffer from COPD. Number one reason for hospitalizations in this country, all caused by commercial tobacco. Not prohibited, not demonized, profited on, and available all over the place where cannabis is not. Cannabis, its healthy cousin, does not cause lung cancer and other problems. It is anti-cancer. It is all of these medicinal things, analgesic, anti-inflammatory. No harm. $7 to $9 billion industry in British Columbia for the last couple of decades here before so-called legalization. $7 to $9 billion worth of cannabis sold in this province is a fair number of doses. Lots of doses. Billions of doses. Probably more than McDonald's put together with what they're serving. No problems. There wasn't any hospital wards full of people suffering from the ills of smoking marijuana. There wasn't recovery homes set up for people to try to get off of marijuana. There really wasn't any stories in the newspaper about anybody who'd even really been harmed by marijuana. There was conjecture and speculation and medical professionals talking about the potential harm of marijuana. There were the lies started by William Randolph Hearst to justify his attacks on the Mexican people and his protection of his own tree-based paper in his attempt to replace the cannabis and hemp paper. All those lies perpetrated all this time. No real stories. No real stories of anybody using cannabis and being violent. Those stories were lies. That was William Randolph Hearst just plain outright lying to his advantage, to be able to say that, you know, the perpetrator of this murder was seen smoking reefer prior to the act being committed. All of that was bullshit. None of that was true. Right up until the 60s, people believed it, though. A gullible public, not accessing internet information, only relying on the mainstream magazines of the day, and there weren't very many of them. The newspapers that were there, most of those being operated by William Randolph Hearst, the guy behind the lies in the first place. So up until the 60s, people really believed all of that. That cannabis would kill your brain, it would make you violent and insane, and you would die a horrible death, terribly addicted. In the 60s, they did the studies to find out because so many people were using cannabis. Millions of people in the United States and in Canada breaking the criminal law on a daily basis. The courts flooded with people charged with possession or cultivation of cannabis. Nobody there charged with ever hurting anybody, by the way. Never a victim in the courtroom. Never anybody harmed. Nobody ever tried to sue anybody for providing cannabis that made them violent or insane or sick or whatever. Those studies in the 60s, they told a completely different story. The Ledane Commission here in Canada, the Schaefer Committee down in the United States, or the Schaefer Report. Millions of dollars, years spent, in-depth investigations to find out that there was no justification to use the criminal law against people wanting to access or produce and provide cannabis. That it doesn't make you violent and insane. It makes you calm and relaxed, maybe a little bit hungry. That it doesn't cause a whole bunch of bad medical issues. It doesn't make people lazy. All of those things were dispelled back in the 60s. And a big movement of legalization began that ran through the 70s. And we were almost there, or so it seemed anyway, until the soccer moms got motivated. What about the children? Oh my God, we can't be legalizing weed. What about the children? In a world full of alcohol and commercial cigarettes that kids were smoking early and young. When I went to high school, there was a smoking pit for those of us that wanted to smoke during the breaks. There was ashtrays in restaurants and taxi cabs in every car. That stuff kills people. That stuff was determined to be toxic a long time ago. 4:19. I'm running out of time. That's a terrible thing because, boy, oh boy, I could use more of it. I got so much to say. But what the bottom line is that this world is still as upside down and backwards and wrong as it's been for the last 100 years or more due to corruption. And our government's being co-opted by corporate forces that want to force us to consume and produce for them. And we live our lives at their expense, where we are taxed and fined and feed and punished and penalized for not obeying and for just not towing the real corporate line that is behind our government here in Canada. So 200 shows in, and we're still talking about that, and we are still in the thick of fighting all of that. And I'm happy that you are all here. This is our 200th show. I got a lot of people to thank. And the first person that I got to thank at this point, of course, is Glenn Wells, because he's going to join me for the 420 section.
Hey,
Well, Mr. Wells, how are you, sir?
Sir, how are you?
Well,
You
sir,
don't look 200.
I feel 200.
You feel good.
Earlier.
Yeah, I had a different tune to my face. Yeah, I know. That's great.
Oh, big thank you to the Candy Bar.
Yeah, did you guys see that on the
Well, at
way
the beginning
in?
of the show, I'm sure they did. Thank you very much,
I
Candy
feel like a
Bar.
race car driver at this point, and we'll change hats again. The Candy Bar has been very good to us, donating to the CSP and supporting the program, and lots of other things going on that they support as well. But today they've decided to help me celebrate the 200th show here, and I couldn't be more happy, except that this stuff is way out of my reach. They didn't fool around at all, I'll tell you,
No.
those candy bar people.
No.
These things apparently, it even feels high to pick it up there. You know? The little things look pretty high. 250 milligrams just in the icing, another 500 in the carrot cake itself. Wow, you don't eat one of those and go for a drive, I'll tell you.
No, definitely not. I want
Wow.
to be about like half of it might be like snoozing about 12 hours
So-
or something.
So those which don't get consumed today by the people that are going to be, wanting some,
Yeah.
will be cut up into quarters or eighths and packaged up and given out for the CSP with the proper milligrams noted. We're not giving one of those whole things to anybody.
Except for George.
Well,
can
George
handle
is
it.
George is not.
George can
George
handle it.
works here.
Yes, but he's
He's
1,000
one of the.
milligrams.
Hopefully he'll be making an appearance today, and I'm
Yeah.
sure he'll be complaining about his working conditions. It's
Always.
not a fun place to work at all. I mean, it's torturous, really.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we require here is constant drug testing.
Drug use.
This is definitely a work-free drug place, and if you think that sounds like fun, well, just try it, because it's not an easy job, but somebody's got to do it. Damn it! And so George, he'll be coming in here, and he can handle something like that. But like I say, George works here. I'm not giving any of those to anybody that isn't a personal close friend of mine and works
Yes,
here.
because they're potent.
They're potent,
They're
and
very potent.
ODing on cannabis is not fun. It doesn't kill you.
J-Mac wants
You
to
just
come and get
think
one.
you're dying.
J-Mac wants to come and get one. Should we get one to
Oh,
J-Mac?
J-Mac.
Yeah, I think J-Mac should get
All
one.
right,
Put him
J-Mac,
up.
get your ass down here.
Hopefully
Sorry,
he was.
Marvy.
I'm sure. Hopefully he was coming here anyway, right?
I don't know. He's online right there, and I can eat a hole when he's.
It's a long show. He doesn't live 2 hours away from here. I was expecting him to come and pay a visit. I mean, this is after all the 200th show. He's
Yeah.
been on the show several times,
Yeah.
so I'd be happy to see him here.
We got a few people coming in. We got some people from Edmonton. We got to dial in on the live video.
Well, that's
so.
what they say. They're probably just going to stand me up because.
Oh no! They wouldn't do that. They're watching right
Have you had a date with me? I mean,
No, I haven't had a date with you. No,
lots of people don't keep their dates with me.
Make
but-
sure you pass that back to Gary.
Oh, is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Gary's here. Come on in and say hi,
You
Gary.
want in? All right. I can swap out
No,
spots
well,
here.
you just stay here. I think you got enough.
I can work my way
You
in.
can work in your way in.
You got to come over closer to me. That's
All
what
right,
you got to do.
let's
You
go
got
this way.
to come in
Okay.
here. You wanted to get closer behind the
Oh
desk
yeah, there you go.
anyway,
Yeah,
right?
I did. Yeah. Grab a stool.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we got to bring in.
I gotta bring in the stool.
Yeah, the big wood one probably is the best there.
A
Yeah.
stool chair.
That's okay. No.
I could ask lots before, eh?
Yeah, no, I already did.
I'm just gonna. Some people I'm just gonna put him on the spot here. Gary.
No.
Gary, I can put him on the spot. There you are.
That's my forgot. I forgot.
Make sure you line yourself up here. You be your own producer there.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
You get
Yeah.
yourself in there. So I like the height differential. I feel like we're having the
Yeah, there you go.
school picture being
there
facing
you
around
go.
Yeah,
I'm the little runt in the
That
front.
works good.
And that's going up there.
Are you gonna take a piece of cake with you?
I don't think I should be doing any of that kind of stuff. That's a little too
Well,
strong
what
for me.
But you can
what
share
about
it.
Bridget? I mean, would
Bridget,
you?
you and
Oh
Sharon.
no, yeah, we got.
I'm going to donate one of those cupcakes to your program,
That I can
and you
cut
can
up.
cut them into
You
fours
bet I
or
can.
sixes or whatever. They're 750, right? So if
I
you
know.
cut it into like
Into
7
four.
pieces, you would have 100, just over 100 each
Just
one.
100, yeah.
But
So
you can't cut it into 7 pieces.
Yes,
it has
she
to be
can.
an even number, shouldn't it?
No.
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't.
she can. She
Oh,
can
okay.
do that.
Oh, yeah.
Bridget can do. Have you
All right.
seen Bridget's cooking? She can do anything.
Cutting. We're talking about cutting. No, no.
Cutting
Yeah,
is part of
that's true.
cooking.
Yes,
We've
it
got
is.
some knives
Cutting is
out
part of
in our
cooking. When you
kitchen,
bake the cake,
All right.
you got to cut it. I mean, look
Hey,
at
Fred.
this here. So anyway,
Fred
Bridget.
Bell dropped in too.
Hey, Fred.
Yeah.
Is that how it's going to work? I'm going to have to say hi to these people through that.
I don't know. No.
No, okay.
Jeff and Pat will be on
Okay.
screen there.
So, Gary and Bridget, you guys have been inspired by the CSP, and you've got a need going on out there in Newton. You're from Newton originally,
Yeah.
and you're sort of from the history that supports people that would want to give back in this way. And you've been running the Cannabis Substitution Program. You provided me this wonderful. Oh, not this one.
That's the other hat. Changing
Yeah,
hats.
yeah,
Bam, that's like quick.
The race driver's at it
Look
again.
at that.
There you go. That's a good idea.
We won, so you got to change
Here
it.
we
Put all
go.
these different hats on while they take
There we
your
go.
picture.
Many hats.
I've seen that recently. That was pretty
You're a
good.
man of many hats.
A man of many hats. I don't like to digress. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about the Newton CSP, but I saw the race the other day, the French Grand Prix,
Yes.
and at the end of it, the guy that won, and man, he won like crazy, eh? And
Yeah, that wasn't me.
and so
No.
anyway, oh, there it is.
There it is.
There it is. Okay.
I didn't.
It's already working, the 420 session. Anyway, at the end of the race there, he's got all these sponsors, right?
Yeah.
And so he's got to get his picture taken at the podium with the hat on
No, that guy.
that matches the sponsor. So he was like putting on a hat, throwing this one over there, putting on another one, throwing it over there. I mean, there must have been 50, 60 that I saw. Maybe there was 200, I don't know. But there was a lot of hats, like a pile that really hung. Anyway, totally off topic. Except that you created this hat, and I love the spirit of it. Because what we think we're in right here is a war. We're in a war zone here.
Definitely.
And you kind of see the same thing going on out in Newton.
Definitely, man. Like, definitely. It's a war zone out there, you know, with the opiate crisis, like you said, Neil.
Sorry.
We just love the program because of what it stands for and what you've done already.
Right.
So we're just not we don't have the shop and the weed van, like, as you know.
Well, our journey has been 6.5 years, and it's kind of
Exactly.
led to all of this. You're at the early stages of all of that, but you're paying close attention to what's going on here. And I've got news today. This is a breaking story with respect to the court case. Well, not really. What it is that Health Canada has sent us our final refusal of our application, which is absolutely outrageous and absurd. For them to just ultimately send me a refusal without entering into any dialogue, without ever coming here and seeing what we're dealing with and how we're dealing with it and all the rest of it, for them to sit in Ottawa and decide that by the Cannabis Act, by the book, we can't be doing what we're doing here, and to tell us to stop doing it after 6.5 years, despite the long, powerful letter that I sent to them about all that, that is criminal, it is absurd, it cannot stand the test of a judge, in my opinion. And so today, we decided that we're going to go for a judicial review before the court case.
Yep.
So we got our court case where I've been charged with selling without a license, which, by the way, is only happening because Health Canada has been criminally delinquent in providing said license, not trying to sell without a license, trying to get a license, but having started this program to save people's lives and having had great success with that a couple of years before legalization, there were no licenses to apply for when we started this. By the time legalization came, and now even though the City of Vancouver has unanimously approved support for us, they can't allow us to have a business license until Health Canada provides their license. So we applied to Health Canada almost 3 years ago, and they've been delaying and stalling and intending to refuse, and now finally refusing a couple months away from it being 3 years. Criminally delinquent in their responsibilities. It's their responsibility to provide us a license. Not to not provide us with a license, to figure out how to provide us with a license. They need to talk to us. They need to understand carefully and intrinsically what it is that is going on here, how it is that we're rescuing people from addiction and saving their lives in the process, certainly bettering the lives of hundreds of people who have been members here for years. They need to come and understand that, because them refusing that license and condemning us to being enforced upon by the Cannabis Act is going to throw hundreds of people into, at the very least, despair, if not death and serious injury from overdose. This is the responsibility of Health Canada to not allow that to happen. So it's not within their realm at this point, 6.5 years into our demonstration, hundreds and even thousands of people helped and saved in the process. It is not in their realm to say no to providing us with a license. It is their job to figure out how to do that. We have given them the framework of how it can be maintained the way that it is. The easiest, simplest, and best way would simply be to license the suppliers that have been providing for us for 6.5 years without any complaints and any problems. That would be the simplest for them to do. If not, if we have to use the supply that goes through the licensed producers other than our producers being licensed, so be it. But do that. Figure out how to do that. I don't know how to do that because I don't have the mechanism. They do.
They're making the rules.
They're the ones making the rules. So I can't say, here's how we would do that, although I have suggested that rather than these places be destroying large amounts of cannabis that they've grown too much of, or for whatever reason they're not going to be allowed to bring to market, or maybe the marketplace has moved on and they don't want that particular strain anymore.
Or they're on a fire sale.
And the fire sale,
What else
because
are
here
they
we've got a
doing right
company,
now? Yeah.
you know, going bankrupt, and
Fundraiser.
company down.
and the Canadian government decided it was okay to freeze their assets, make them destroy their assets, rather than capitalize on those assets and be able to pay back the Canadian government and the rest of the creditors. So there's another solution for Health Canada to be able to provide us with cannabis that would be regulated and would be acceptable, apparently. But no discussion about that from them at all. And this is outrageous to the point where we're going to bring them before a judge. Before we get to court with the selling without a license charge, we're going to take Health Canada to court, have a judicial review of what an actual human being with eyes on him, not in some ivory tower back east, thinks about what we've been doing here, good or bad, and what their decision will be. I hope it's not continuing corruption. I can't imagine that it could be. But at least we're going to have our day in court to put our case before a judge.
We'd
You know?
be still here. We couldn't even imagine that, and here we are.
I know.
200 shows in, right?
I know.
Still.
So we'll find out.
Yeah.
You know, certainly for anybody watching, I hope we've made the case. I hope that you know, if you've been watching the show for any length of time, any one show on its own, by the end of the 2 hours, my hope is that you understand what we're doing, and we've made the case why it needs to continue here. For us, it's a no-brainer. For Health Canada, apparently they're blind, deaf, and dumb. You know, so you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, we're going to take it to court. So there's my big news. So tell me a little bit about the Newton program. 3 weeks now on the mobile that you're doing, or what's the deal? You tell me.
So we've been doing this now for 3 months out there actually now, you know, and so it's grown, right? It's grown.
I
We're
mean 3 weeks.
3 weeks. That's all good. It's grown really quick actually, you know. So in the 3 days we see anywhere between, you know, 80 to about 130 people,
Right.
And how
So you've gotten to know a number of them by this time, and they recognize you when you're coming as well.
Oh yeah. Actually, yeah, they're quite excited when our like camouflage buggy pulls up.
And then, so what are you providing there? You're providing food and cannabis, yes?
Yes. So we give them like a care package of food, right, and a couple bottles of water.
So when you say food, like what are sandwiches?
Yeah, sandwiches right now.
That you guys are making up yourself?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we make them ourselves, right?
Right.
And we get donations from other places.
Yeah.
That provide us the opportunity to do that, and
Yes.
then we've got like lots of water.
Right.
Lots and lots of water from a donation.
Do you want to talk about the donator of the water?
Oh well, it's actually a church.
That's what I was saying.
Yes.
So you attend this church. You actually play in a band that plays at that church.
Yeah, I do actually serve it that way. Yeah, I
Nice.
do. Yeah, I do.
And you've got those people, you know, to support what it is that you're doing there with helping people, and they know that cannabis is involved.
Yes, they do.
Nice.
Yes, of course. Right.
Of
You
course.
might not want to.
How could you? How could you not? Right?
How could you not?
But I mean, yeah. And what we're doing is we provide the food, and then what we've been baking for you with those little cookies that
Yep.
Bridget makes.
Yep.
She calls them 2 bite delights.
They are.
And then so she makes those, and then we take some of the stuff that you help out with too, and we're doing scratching each other's backs that way.
Yep.
And we take those cookies, and what we do is we give 2 cookies and 1 doobie to each person we see.
Nice.
Right, and then the food. So,
And you've seen quite a difference in some of the people in the 3 months that you've been doing it.
oh yeah, man, huge. Like, yeah, Glenn, actually,
Yeah, I know.
they're not
I've worked
all.
the window here.
They're
right?
not all messed. Like, well, they're not. Some of them sometimes go back.
You meet them. You meet them originally, and they're dope sick.
Yeah, most of them are.
Yeah,
And-
they're obviously like just like
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Now most of them, when we come by or roll in, are, you know, ready.
more awake.
They're more awake. They know we're coming, so they kind of maybe not do that until they get their packages and they'll eat. And then some
That's
people
pretty
are
cool.
saying that it's helping, right?
Right.
But the thing is the problem is, Neil, is there's not enough detoxes
course.
in our city.
Yeah.
So they want them now detoxed before they go into houses.
And what you're giving them is not enough for them to get through withdrawal. it's just enough to tide them over a little bit, so they use less of what they're using.
Exactly.
They wake up a little bit. They can think a little bit straighter.
And the treatment centers don't think they detox it. They've got cannabis in them.
Exactly, Glenn. That's
Right.
another
Yeah.
thing we need
That's
to try
it.
to
That's
see.
the whole
just
problem,
junk.
right? Is that they're doing something good for themselves to help them get to the point where they can get into treatment, which they will probably won't need because they had a week's worth of high-dose edibles.
Exactly.
You-
So
you-
on
you
the
get them
horizon,
off.
we see detox centers that are maybe cannabis centric,
That
that
would be
allow
very,
for
yeah.
it. You know,
Well, I mean, we already know the benefits of CBD and other things, and
Yeah.
we know what high dose edibles already do. We've seen it. Oh, but the really good news is the family member last night showed up at our door,
right?
and I won't get into the gist
Yeah.
of what's happened.
Sure.
But she's gone into recovery now.
Right.
So she's
Good.
safe in the house now. So we're all hoping the best for her, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah. That's
Cool.
good.
So
Yeah.
that was a real positive.
And there are some people doing some things to make some detox available to people with a cannabis centric theme, or at least allowing cannabis to be part of that. I know there's some people that are pretty motivated to make it happen, that are just looking for resources, and I think it is something in the not too distant future. And it would be right now 100% if Health Canada was doing their job.
Oh.
If they were recognizing, and we sent them so many scientific studies, peer-reviewed, PubMed stuff, that, I mean, cannabis helps people get off those hard drugs. Cannabis can be used as a replacement for those hard drugs, to replace doses, to mitigate the harms, and to eventually get people right off of that. If they would do their job and recognize that during a public health emergency about this, and make that public knowledge, they had to have some real public campaigns or information campaigns about this, allowed for and supported detox places to incorporate cannabis as a harm reduction tool and method of getting there, then we'd have it,
Yeah.
But the reason that there's still hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people in this general neighborhood that can't get off those drugs, can't get even into treatment if they wanted to anyway. The treatment doesn't work when they get there anyhow. So many of those people would by now, and so many of the ones that have died waiting,
Yeah, the
You
ones that died,
they wouldn't have died if Health Canada had been on this from the start. How long are they going to wait before they decide to declare, hey, yeah, I guess, it is a good idea if you're using opioids to maybe use some higher dose cannabis edibles, and yes, we will, the courts would then say, well, you can't not have those things available for people in a storefront, because not everybody can make their own or have a friend or can access. If it's not there in a storefront, they can't get it. So if the federal government, when, because it's a when, there's no doubt about it, when the federal government has to capitulate and finally admit that cannabis not only has medical value, it has great medical value, and it has medical value in the face of this public health emergency, and should be made available as an option to people, then if they don't do it, the courts would demand it.
Yeah.
We would easily win that one in court. But as long as Health Canada maintains the position that cannabis doesn't have any medical value.
Well, you know what, Neil? This is my belief, and this is just I'm not trying to throw a conspiracy theory out, and I mean, four of
Most
us
of them
here.
turned out to be true anyway,
Yeah,
so don't worry about
four
that.
of us here, right here, would probably
Pretty
admit
sure it's pretty good.
the reason why I believe Health Canada will not do this for us is, see, they make so much money off Suboxone and methadone, which actually kills people, instead of using high CBDs, smoothies, right? We found, watch this, because we did detox someone on our couch. They did go back out,
Yeah.
but we had them in 5 days, right? So by day 3, they had quit being sick. We used like a very like a gravel, a super gravel. It's like prescribed, right, for people who are in the hospital and get sick too much. Well, we used that, CBDs, and smoothies so she could get food in her, and then after 5 days, it was fine.
Yeah.
So no Suboxone, no methadone. So
So what you're suggesting is, man, that's pretty far-fetched. You think there's some sort of a financial relationship going on between our government and pharmaceutical companies?
Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Haven't you heard this story
That's
before?
good.
But they're just doing it with cannabis
So
because
wouldn't
they
they-
know it works.
Wouldn't they call that like a conflict of interest then?
Yeah. Well.
So if this government is in a financial relationship with these pharmaceutical companies to provide those products as their way to deal with this overdose crisis, And that same government is actively using taxpayer dollars to try to thwart the idea even, let alone the actual function of people having access to those things and understanding that that can work. Doesn't that seem like a conflict of interest to you? Because,
Of course.
you know, there's all these things I've been talking about in the last couple of shows. You know, when I was growing up, we talked ethics all the time in my house. That was what we did at every dinner table. It was my dad and my two brothers and I would engage in the ethics of the day, whatever that, you know, there was some news story, right? And there was all these things that would come up about, you know, the role of government and the ethics of government and the checks and balances on these said governments, like being able to charge them with abuse of power or with misusing public funds or contempt of the populace, or there were things against monopolies. There were things about protection rackets. And all of these things are in play with the cannabis file. And none of it seems to matter. You know? Like, they got the judges, they got the media, and by they, I don't mean the government. I mean, they got the government too, these people who are the they.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we're just simply pawns of theirs in a system where they're just raking in the billions of dollars and buying big yachts and taking their money offshore. And, you know, no amount is too much for these people. It's all about controlling us for the most part. And they must just be going, ha, 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 look at those poor fools
Well,
down
there's a
there.
bigger story today. I just heard something actually just recently when I was hanging with your guys that Trudeau, right, basically is now saying he's not really responsible for housing, and that's now he's throwing that Neil, right? And he's throwing the fact that okay, he's not responsible for housing, but didn't I hear that it's a $1 per gram tax before it even gets to the dispensary?
Cannabis, yeah.
Yeah, cannabis. So each gram that is grown all across Canada has a $1 tax. So where's all that money going? And then, you know, where's all this money going? Where's all this money going? There's a lot of money there. It's going somewhere, but it's obviously not going into good things like housing and programs like the Cannabis Substitution
So
Program.
I'm not an economist and I'm not an expert on government spending and intake. I'm just a casual citizen, you know, that has some knowledge of some things. It doesn't add up to me either.
No.
You know, when you look at all the ways the federal government takes in large amounts of money, what are they doing with it all? Now, I hear that they're giving millions away to other places in the world for their housing,
Okay.
you know, and things like
Wow.
that. So apparently they're building housing for people that aren't in Canada.
Wow.
I don't know. Like
Why
I
don't
say,
we just bring a
I'm
few
not
of
an
those
expert,
people
so I
here?
can't really comment. This is about truth, and the truth is, I really don't know enough about it, right? I mean, I don't know the inner workings. Like, some economists seem to be able to get in there. Maybe they got insider friends or something that let them know, but it just looks to me from the outside that there's a whole shit ton of money coming in. Even though Tilroy lost $4.1 billion in the last year. Tilray lost $4 billion. We're talking billion dollars here. The government didn't lose any of that money.
No.
The government is still raking in their buck a gram for every pound in Canada that's grown under the regulated system. Now, I don't know if that had to sell or not, and I don't know how much Tilroy. You can imagine if Tilroy lost $4 billion, that they must have sold a fair bit to begin with. How do you even lose $4 billion selling something that grows out of the ground from a seed without too much trouble? How do you lose money doing that? I don't understand that. I was looking today at the cannabis business side of things, where they were talking about this. The economists have put together this dollar per foot. How much dollar per foot you should get for cultivating marijuana. I would like to see those statistics up against you know, what other plants and commodities are being grown by farmers out there, and how much they get dollars per foot that they get, you know.
Yeah.
But the government seems to think that you should be getting you know, many dollars per foot for cannabis. So I don't know if that's money that they lost or money they thought they'd make but they couldn't sell enough of it, or I don't know what. But
It
it's
could be money that Trudeau's like giving away to his family members too, like behind the scenes and over
well,
here,
yeah,
over
probably.
there.
So maybe, who knows? This now we're digging deep into
Yeah.
conspiracy, which we have no knowledge of, may not be
No.
true. but just
Probably
maybe
not
maybe
true,
friends
but-
and family of Trudeau
Yeah.
have bought shares
Could be.
in Tilray, although they probably had some inside information about Tilray and decided that wasn't a good investment, maybe because those people that did, buy shares in Tilray, it's their money that's disappeared. It's nobody else's money. There's no ownership that has money in Tilray that they're going to lose. The money that Tilray has to play with and grow plants with and make money on is the shareholders' money. So when they say they lost $4.1 billion, what that really means is that all those people that had shares, they paid this amount of dollars for their share originally, and now their share is only worth this amount of dollars, and in between there's a $4.1 billion loss in total to all of them put together. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And they spin their excuses more and more.
Meanwhile, that other amazing commodity that is in this world that I think is amazing, because how does it get to exist alongside of the regulations for cannabis when it is also just something you smoke? How can you be allowed to smoke these cigarettes that are sold commercially that the government makes a whole bunch of money off of through lots of taxes because, try to deter people from smoking, but apparently it doesn't work very well, or maybe they'll tell me there's a bunch of people quitting. I think that might be true, but I look at particularly here next to Chinatown and amongst the Asian, a lot of Asian young people smoking cigarettes. Looks like maybe all of them. It's not the norm if you're not smoking a cigarette. If you're an Asian young person, or maybe even an Asian person in particular, in general, I don't know about that. But they're still selling a lot of cigarettes. They're still killing a lot of people with it. Now they're going to have to put the warning right on the cigarette. So as you're smoking your cigarette, contemplating life, you're going to be, subconsciously have to be noticing the printing on the paper of your cigarette that says this thing is killing you slowly, buddy, or whatever they're going to say there, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Of course, here in Canada, it'll have to be done on one side in French and on the other side in English.
That's right.
So the smokers pretty quickly they'll be switching to, unless they're bilingual.
Yeah.
But otherwise they'll be switching to the side that they don't recognize what it says because they don't want to know that stuff, right?
Exactly.
But they're still putting it right in your face there. Hey, this stuff is killing people, has for decades. It's killing you right now, but you can still buy it. We'll still make it available to you. You can buy it in grocery stores and gas stations, and it doesn't matter how close these places are together to each other. It doesn't matter how close they are to schools or rec centers or anything. Lots and lots of availability of that commercial cigarette that's killing you right now while you're smoking it. So this is in our world. This is Canada, folks. That's the law apparently. But there's this other looks just like.
Yeah,
Just
that
like
one.
like a cigarette, except
Yeah.
it's not.
No.
This is not commercial tobacco, which is really just paper that's sprayed with tobacco juice plus a whole bunch of carcinogenic chemicals to make it more addictive for people.
Don't forget, lots of that hydrogen cyanide.
And it just so happens that the pharmaceutical companies and the tobacco companies are like self-invested in each other, and so they're all just making money on people getting sick, and they're all just making money on people smoking cigarettes. Oh my God.
Oh wait,
It's crazy
you
shit, man.
forgot one more thing.
More conspiracy.
No. You were talking about the tobacco industry and the government. What about the alcohol industry and the
That
government?
one too.
Wow.
That one's even more theirs.
Yeah.
They don't only just take enormous taxes off the sale of like the cigarettes that they do, but they really are the regulators of alcohol that's sold in the country.
Yeah. And when you think about all the money they make off that, all the money they make off tobacco, and then this $1 a gram for every gram grown in Canada, again,
That's
Mr.
very
Trudeau,
tasty weed.
where's all the money, man? So-
Well, but once again, the conflict of interest. The government is actively profiting on the sale of alcohol, and they're actively using taxpayer dollars to prevent people from having reasonable access to cannabis. So there is a difference between cannabis and alcohol with respect to how it would be accessed. Not as many people are going to brew their own alcohol. people like to have a brand name of alcohol, something fancy, something special, something that's their familiar brand, whatever it is. A lot of trouble to brew alcohol. I've seen closets and garages us with the conspiracy and then
Yeah.
bringing us up to date on the 200th show. It's what
And I
it's all
want to
about.
say congratulations on 200 shows,
Thank
man.
you very much.
You'd be in syndication
You
now,
have
man.
no idea how
Hollywood.
much work this is.
Yes. Yeah, you guys would be in syndication in Hollywood. Yeah.
Well.
Okay, guys.
If the government wouldn't suppress what we're doing.
See you
All
later,
right.
Neil.
See you later, Gary. Thank you so much for what you're doing out there in Newton. I look forward to wonderful things coming out of that.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, we're
Have you
still
on the
live.
show Down
Good.
the road a little bit, we'll
I'm gonna-
talk more in depth
I'm going to
about it.
invite Pat now.
See you
George,
later.
come just for a moment. George is camera.
Okay.
George is camera shy, but I insisted he come on here.
So if this works, we'll be able to see Pat.
We'll have Pat standing in the wings and just or sitting where he's doing in the wings.
just saying adding.
You're the longest termer here, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
3+ years here, and then Van
30+ years at Van Du.
A long time. Yeah, I guess I'm old too then.
Well, they're calling me old now too, so I guess I joined the club. What can we do? But we are growing old together for sure. It's been over 6 years. I want to thank you for all the work that you've done here. You've held it together. You're kind of the glue that holds this whole thing together when I'm not around, and even when I am around. And so I just wanted to say thanks for doing that and being here and being so loyal and good. And I know it's torturous.
Some days it is.
It's hard working
Some
here.
days it's very torturous, but
And we joke about it, because we do require that our people know what the different cannabis products are all about that we have. So there's that, and so we force drug use on people, but
yeah, that's the terrible part.
and that's what we're joking about.
Coming to work in the morning and being forced to take mushrooms and
I can see
edibles.
how you agonize over it when you come in the door there.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's,
It is.
you hesitate to get out your little kit there and put together your morning joint or whatever. It's,
Yeah, it's a morning joint.
I can see you struggle hard with that.
Yeah, I gotta stay away from the shrooms because
And so we're joking about all that, and that is kind of funny, and everybody knows that this would be a dream place to work. We would like a lot of other people would like to work here, but George just refuses to quit. So, and actually, it is quite a task to work here much of the time because of what we're dealing with.
some days it can be.
with
Some,
human suffering.
some days it's really bad out there, and some days it's great.
It has both, I think, most days is my
Well,
experience.
yeah, there's some days like somebody will come by and they'll thank you for helping them out. And then there's other guys that come by and you don't give them an extra joint. They threaten to come back and stab you with a knife. It's
Yeah.
just the way it is.
Yeah, and
So-
then there are some verbal abuse things that go on here. Surprising, not a lot, but enough. And lots of verbal abuse and even physical abuse going on around us. People yelling at each other
all the time in the alleys. It's horrible.
chasing each other and what have you, and lots of different things happen here. So I really commend you on your what's the word I'm looking for? Disposition. Your easy disposition that allows you to kind of absorb these things without it having the effect that it has had on a lot of people that have come and gone from
Maybe
here.
That's why I don't sleep at night.
Is that? Oh, don't call me that. WorkSafe is watching right now.
Oh, great.
Tell us on camera that's not why you're not sleeping, George. Come on.
All right, so
Anyway, thanks, George. I know you want to go.
All right.
Appreciate
I'll see
your
you in the
service.
morning.
We'll see you after the next 200 shows.
Yeah, probably.
all right, so it doesn't seem to be working for Pat. Maybe he's
Oh.
too far away. Oh, it declined again, and he's tried calling us. I tried calling him, but I can get him this way. If we can just set up a couple of pop bottles or water bottles, we can put them in on this way.
Oh,
All right, so I'll do it this way.
Adam, do you want to be the? Are you busy there?
I'm good.
You're good. You want to be?
Okay, we'll try it this way.
Apparently, we need something.
Try too.
The 2 water bottles.
Yeah, or Jeff, okay,
Put them up on
tell
the desk
Jeff
here.
to send me one right now,
Against it, I think.
Okay.
right?
That's all.
I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, we'll keep you here though, Pat,
So
right
here we
now.
are.
Just
200 shows later, we have our technically worst show by our own creation.
yeah, it should be a little green button or something that says request to join.
So you're going to put that over there on the water.
Well, yeah, we may bring those water bottles over beside you, and I can put him up like this. But right now, Jeff, these ones here.
Oh, those ones.
Yeah, because that'd be enough for me to lean it up. I don't know, or something. Yeah, this will be heavy too.
Okay. All right.
There we go. All right, so I don't see anything from Jeff yet.
Uh-oh, we got somebody else here.
Right now, this guy.
If you put the mat down, it won't move.
There you
I don't
go.
know why I did that to me. That's really weird, man.
That's weird. Okay, we can just do it this way. We'll do it this way.
It's always, okay, oh, cool.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, we're doing it this way?
Yeah, we're gonna go this way. So,
This way here.
no. You wanna go that way? I wanna go this way.
Go this way?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Is that heavy enough? No, that's why I put that bleach bottle
For
there.
darking, that's going.
There we go.
You're good.
Oh,
There we
there
go.
it is.
All right.
I see you now.
Hey,
Welcome.
Okay, move it back a little bit if we can. Maybe remove those bottles. Yes. Yeah.
like that.
All right. And then we'll go this way. I think that's much better.
All right.
Yes. Okay. Now we can see them.
There we go. Yeah, is that all right? Good. So we're going for us for there. Is that better? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see you now. All right.
What's that?
Careful what you say. We got the landlord here as well.
All right. It's all yours, guys.
How you doing, Pat? Good to see you.
Congratulations, guys. It's a big feat to get 200 shows in, so nice work.
I have
Congratulations.
no idea.
Well done, brother. Amazing. I saw the story, Neil. Do you remember when I met you first time?
First time we met. Okay, no.
First time we met was at 420 on the beach, and I actually just ate a bunch of mushrooms, and you went by and yelled out, "Hey, Keith!" Because I was the big hockey fan, of course, your cousin, right?
Right?
And then he looked at me all stunned, and then it dawned to me, oh shit, wrong name. And I was on mushrooms, and I couldn't think of it for about 2 minutes. Then I finally thought of it. So that was my first time meeting you. I don't know if you remember that at all.
It was 420. You can't expect me to remember very much about 420s. You know, people force weed down me all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I don't remember that, but
No, that's all right. I think it was funny.
I'm glad I contributed to your trip. And you've had quite the trip since then as well, eh?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, it's been a lot under the bridge. And how long ago was that? What 420 was that?
I think 2017, maybe? I think it was 17.
Okay,
You,
so
my
it's
friend.
several years ago. Thanks, landlord.
Happy anniversary.
16 or 17.
I see.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, and a lot's happened since then, for sure.
Adam,
Is there an update? Is there an update at all on your case?
happy anniversary.
Well, we didn't get a personal remedy.
Right.
But we're still deciding if we're going to appeal that or not. But obviously the charter decision from before sticks. So to be honest, it really seemed like the judge was talking out of both sides of her mouth.
Right.
So she seemed to take the angle that the LPs have more rights than we do, and that the poor LPs were the ones that were displaced because of this, not the patients. So. I can't really say unfortunately too much more because I'm still under the BS, but the gig orders, that's where the publication of the bands too. But I'd love to share with you behind closed doors. I'm all set up in Edmonton now, so I'd love to chat with you about it sometime. But yeah, basically, it's what it looks like is that they gave LPs their rights over patients, saying that the charter protection was for it's not their fault. The patients don't have the rights just because LPs don't have the products, right? So again, it's kind of a backwards approach, but it is what it is.
Well, and I don't know if you heard earlier in the show, Jack and I decided we're going to have a judicial review of Health Canada's refusal.
Amazing, great work.
So that'll be filed within the next day or two, and that'll happen real quick. That'll happen before the October court case with the selling without a license.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited.
That's such a big step. Well, Spanky's here too, by the way, too. Spanky wanted to say hi. We can't get too tight. We're a bunch of big folks here, so.
Yep. Hi. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate all that you do. We'll definitely, talk more in other shows with you about what's going on. And like I said, thank you so much.
Have a great day. Congratulations to everybody at the CSB. You guys are all amazing. Way to go.
I'll be on
For all you do.
I'll be on the West Coast by Friday, Neil.
That's what I thought. I told Glenn, I said, I think he's coming here.
Yeah, I thought, well, I only knew that you were going to be
Yeah,
in
I'm on my
Edmonton.
way, so I could probably come down to the show with you next week if you want.
Sure, that'd be great. Love to have you.
I'd love to.
So, and you're going to be here for September 1st to face off against Karen, apparently.
Pot fights. I got the 42 Live Cup as well. I got my entry here. I'm coming back. Defending champion, first place.
Nice.
There's the award winning. Well, I'm going to win again a second time. Smells like anything.
And I have good news for you. You do get a judge's kit. I did check. So
Who, me?
Yeah, you get
Oh,
one.
I know. You already told me that.
I checked with her.
Like,
Right, yes.
So,
Just so you know, you get to smoke some of my award-winning bubble.
Yeah, I'll be one of the 5
Nice.
special guests
See if
myself.
I can win a second one.
cool.
So I'm hoping. Yeah,
Cool.
so pot fight September 1st. It's going to be pretty awesome.
I don't know who put that together. I don't know if it's going to be awesome. Are you doing the pillow fight? There's 4 different things. We're supposed to do them all. I'm
yeah,
not.
well, yeah.
I'm not-
We got a dunk tank. I'm getting a dunk tank, so if you want to come dunk Fat Lom, you can.
I don't get to get into a pool very often. Maybe I should do that.
So you can take some rage out on me. You can throw up. You can be. We got some. We got a group coming in that's event wrestling for the pod fights thing. It's going to be really entertaining. General admission is free.
Well,
So-
entertaining, I believe, is true. It's the humiliating part I'm worried about.
Oh
You know.
man, you can't get any more humiliated than I have in life, bro.
Well,
After what they fucking pulled on fucking Cannabis Day, you can't get more humiliating than that.
we're gonna go complain. We're gonna go complain about that on Saturday, and then we're probably coming back to complain a little more about it on Sunday. And then if it all goes well, we'll be back to complain some more about it on Monday. So we're gonna go 3 BC Bud days in a row, and it's all about protesting the mayor and the VPD and the Cannabis Act. And let's see if they want to spend more money and make a big scene, because we'll be there to videotape all of that stuff. And maybe this time we can get the media to pay attention to just how corrupt things are with our government, spending our money and trying to put down valid protests.
Sorry, we got
Would be nice. Great work. Would be nice, brother.
Yeah, and so when are you coming, Jeff?
Get in on the 4th on Friday.
Oh, well, then you can join us on Saturday.
That'll be the plan.
Oh, man. I love it. I love having you there, brother. We'll see you then.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Pat.
Until the 200.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, brothers.
Yeah.
Your rent's
Good
due.
guys, thanks.
So, yeah. Just pay no attention to the bleach.
No.
My skin color comes naturally. It's not anything we're doing here.
Hey,
Not like I'm trying to get out of paying rent or anything.
later up, bro.
Okay.
Congratulations on your 200th episode.
Well, thank you.
I'm a bit late, but I'm on Indian time, which is never late. We're always on time.
I like it. Same with stoner time.
Stoner time, yeah. 420 is always.
So,
One guy came to my room said, it's not 420 yet. I said, my room's always a 420 room.
you gonna have one of these? You know what they are?
Of course he's going to
Laced
have
with
one.
dynamite.
Banana split.
No,
It's a
carrot cake, 750 milligrams.
The whole thing's 750 milligrams.
750 milligrams, yeah.
So
I'm sorry I'm late. I was going to drive for, people to see, autographs to sign,
I know
places to go.
you're a busy guy.
I'm
Rent to collect.
not going to be here.
You got the rent to collect.
This is
I'm
yours.
not going to be here for BC
Don't eat
Budget.
that right now. I will not be responsible for anybody eating that on camera now. I don't want any evidence.
Good to see you all here.
Come back with
Glenn, congrats on your new place. We're going to come smudge it.
Thank you. See you next weekend.
Good to
Yeah.
see you.
Did you want to bring him on the show? Is that what he said?
Jason's a
No, he
friend of
says
mine.
no. Okay.
He's a.
I thought he was here to sing a song. I thought you had a special song for him or something.
Yeah, no, he just bought a guitar for someone else, but
Oh, I see.
he's an old stoner hippie, but he's a little.
I thought he was going to come and play a stoner song.
Yeah, like you're 200 years old today
You could
or
do that.
something.
You could do that. You want to do that? He doesn't want to do that. You could. Well, if you want to do that.
Good. We're live.
I don't even know this fella, so it's not like he's been here for all 200 years or anything like Landberg.
Oh, okay. Now they can
Okay,
get
wow. You'll have to come back another time with a better tuned guitar. I don't blame you.
Yeah,
When
so
they took-
200 episodes. Wow. I'm sad. I won't be here for BC Bud Day though.
No, why not?
He's gonna be gone this weekend.
My friend is taking me over to the island.
Oh, okay.
I'm just,
Well, those are good.
since Cannabis Day, I'm really losing confidence in the police, you know, being pushed down on
Yeah, I know, right?
July 1st on Cannabis Day. My arm is slowly healing. I got some pain cream from the
You're out of
cannabis
the,
culture.
You're out of the swing, so that's
I'm out
good.
of the sling, so I'm resting it right now, but
That's good.
it was slowly healing, and then the BPD, I got his video footage, it's bad, so I'm working on paperwork to sue the guy for pushing an elder down there, native, not just a native person, you should push no old
No,
people
what they
down.
did was reprehensible. You weren't the only one pushed at all, and they should not have been doing what they were doing there at all. That was a horrible thing. We'll see if they're willing to repeat it on Saturday.
Well,
Because we're going to go back and do the same thing on Saturday that we were going to do there on Cannabis Day.
I'm pretty tired.
And we'll see if they want to provoke it, you know. We got, Rosie got a letter from the VPD and the city saying that, you know, they respect people's rights to protest, but they are going to enforce the Cannabis Act and that members of the CSU are going to be there. And so we'll see. We'll see. That, for me, if that's what they want to do, it provides us a great opportunity. I never had a better time telling truth to cops as I did on Cannabis Day when I look back on it. That was one of the positives of the day, was I really got to get into the heads of a lot of those cops, including the sergeants that were there. There was 2 sergeants. Maybe there was 3.
Yeah, I
but
knew
I
one
talked
of them.
extensively to 2 of them. One of them was going to call me. He took my number. We were going to have coffee together. I was going to continue to explain, because up to that point, all he could say to me about what I was saying was that he didn't disagree with me.
Well,
So, you know, we needed to have a bigger talk than that, because these are big issues in our society here. And he is someone who's in a position where, you know, things could happen. So he needed to be more educated than he was able to get that day, but he got educated enough that he felt that he and I should get together and have lunch together or
Right.
whatever.
I had a feeling the cop that pushed me down is a new one, because another police officer came out and said, put him in the van right now. 'Cause I heard him say that, because I was saying he was a bad cop. And the guy who said that said, that's the landlord. You just push the landlord down. So that cop knows me when I worked at Save On Meats.
Right.
So he came to the hospital later, but, you know, I was so,
I can only hope that the
oh,
VPD are horrified by what they did there.
you know, it's not just pushing a native down. You shouldn't push no people down.
They shouldn't have done what they did
You're
there.
not, you're here to protect, not here to push.
Yeah, not here to intimidate.
Well,
You know, these are supposed to be peace officers. These are, that's what they're supposed to be.
right?
If there's a potential for unrest, for problems, violence, then to have a peace officer on site paid for by taxpayers is not a bad idea. Pretty damn good idea. You know, if there's
I
a
mean,
potential.
because I don't pay my taxes, does he push me down?
Well, but like I say, to have some officers deployed to a situation where there is potential for some outbreaks of violence, that makes sense. To deploy over 50 officers to what has been a peaceful demonstration for 30 years here in this city, and to deploy all of that police resource that they had the bike squad there, they had the paddy wagons there, they had so much there, and all that money, and the fence itself was at least $40,000. I had an expert, you know, tell me what it would cost to
Put it up.
to put up a fence like that.
So the
I mean,
city
to have
could
it there
spend
for
money
5
on
days.
that, but not here to,
Well, but to spend money, why? What is it? So they're not trying to prevent any violence or any breaking of the peace. They're doing all of that to prevent a citizen from providing another citizen with some cannabis medicine that isn't available through the government system. So all those people who come from miles away to get the edibles of a sufficient dose that will help them with what they're dealing with, these are sick people and people that need that kind of help, all of those people get shut out of the legalization, and they're going to make sure that they don't get any access by spending all of that money and all that police resources and the violence that they brought to that day. So this is really reprehensible. This, in my mind, is very criminal, and we're going to try it again on Saturday and see what goes down. You know,
things are getting out of hand down
They
here altogether.
yeah.
I didn't tell you this, but last week I got punched in the face twice.
Oh my God.
I was coming home Sunday, and
You know, did it?
I had a good buzz going. I had a barbecue with my friends at the park, Victory Fair. I was coming home. Right next door, guys. I get all his weight, so he punched me in the face twice, big time.
Wow.
I was on dizzy permit. I went to my native sisters to get some ice and some pills. I leave. But I'm just, I've
That's
lived in this
terrible.
neighborhood since 1976, and I'm getting tired. I've taken a Glen move. I'm thinking I'm ready to move to Abbotsford or somewhere.
For your sake, it would be good that you weren't here. For
I'm
the sake of the
getting
downtown, you've been an amazing,
Kind of Uber.
amazing,
Yeah, I kind of Uber driver. Yeah, that's the best Uber driver ever, man. I don't need a ride. I'll be calling you up.
It's my new car too.
Right? Oh, you got a new car, so yeah. No, I love the community. I've helped many ways. My son's helped you. He messed up, which is understandable, but we've been here for a while, helping the best we can. I'm burnt out. I'm tired.
Well, like I say, I think people should do what's best for them.
Yeah.
And,
So
nobody could ask you for any more service in
I
this
think-
neighborhood, but brother, you've been here.
I'm gonna do it one
steady
more
force.
year. I turn 60 next year, and then I'm gonna
Happy
retire.
belated birthday, by the way.
Yeah, it was on Sunday.
It was on Sunday. I normally would only do this for people when it's a day, one side or the other. But in your case, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear landlord. Happy birthday to you.
That's awesome.
There you go.
And one more
Yeah.
request:
And many more requests. How many requests do I? This is
cannabis.
another
single cannabis.
single cannabis.
Come on, I'll
Come
try it with
on,
you.
Really?
That's
Okay.
a special song to me. Coming from you means the world to me. Since I'm Cannabis Day, being carried away by the police, the ambulance. Neil, you've been my bro for many decades, and I thank the Creator for you. You've worked hard in the society too. You've gone across this country. 200 episodes of seeing you on Spot TV.
I'm sorry it's taking you that long to tell the story.
I know, eh?
All right, I got to practice because I'm gonna do it again. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's aimed
Again.
right at all the police officers that may or may not be at Thornton Park on Saturday again. That was one of the highlights of the day for me, was because they all had to stand there. That was the job they'd been given. So there's a long lineup of EPD
Oh,
standing there.
yeah.
And I'd just been preaching at them for a long time before, leading up to O Cannabis. And then I sang O Cannabis to them, which, hard to say what they think of that. They probably think that is so disrespectful and that is so wrong.
I
You know,
know
to be-
they wear
to
the
be taken-
badge. That's disrespect.
Well, for me, this whole thing has been so disrespectful to the Canadian people for 100 years that our Canadian government would have fallen for the bullshit or bought into the scam, whichever it was, and prohibited cannabis, in a free country from citizens that, simply were using it to feel better, whatever, right? And so they bought the lies, or say they bought the lies. They used the criminal law. 1923, just over 100 years ago, it was January 1923 when they enacted the law in Canada against cannabis, marijuana. And, it's been horrible ever since. And so every prime minister since then is directly culpable in this whole ridiculous and horrible infringement and violation of our rights as people. And now it's just gotten to the point of so ridiculous. The truth has been coming out for decades now. Started in the 60s where they had the Dane Commission say there's no need for criminal penalties to do with cannabis. This is simply a plant. It's a natural herb. It makes people calm and relaxed. It doesn't make them violent and insane. It's not addictive. So all that information was there back in the 60s. And ever since then, report after scientific report after scientific report, and the statistics as well bear out that this plant does not require government interference in people's using it or accessing it or dispensing it. It is not a danger in our society at all. It is a benefit to almost everybody that uses it. It's hard to abuse. And yet here they are still doing this. And it is so disrespectful to free people, all of us, whether you're a cannabis user or not. As a free person, that has to be extremely offensive. And so, for me to change our anthem from the one that the colonists would use, and I'm saying that, facetiously to some degree, but not really. I mean, this is what's happened here, man.
My
And
other question, sorry, I know this is your show, but I gotta ask you a question. When did you start smoking weed or medicated?
When I was 15,
15.
yeah, I'd been drinking alcohol for about a year before that, and some friends were smoking weed. The first time I smoked it, I didn't get high.
Wow.
I remember smoking and thinking, nothing's happening here. What's going on? We're just walking down a sort of a dimly lit gravel laneway somewhere in Surrey. But then the next time, not sure if it was the next night or not, but the next time at my friend's place, I got psychedelically high on that joint.
Oh,
I was hiding underneath the coffee table. I was hiding in the closet for a while. I was like, "What's going on, man?" Laughing my head off, and I knew pretty quick that was something that I was going to be wanting to have involved in my life for quite a while. But the first time I heard it called medicine was I had been going to a 420 and Cannabis Day for a few years as a volunteer there with my son. And, I heard some of what was being said, over the megaphone during those events, but mostly didn't pay enough attention, obviously. And it hadn't really been bandied about. That word had not been bandied about like that as with cannabis before. It was marijuana. We were just embracing the idea that we should probably call it cannabis instead. That marijuana was a made-up word by people that didn't want it to sound like something good. But I think we should embrace that word as well. But whatever. But it was at a protest that was being put on against Nicholson. He was the justice minister at the time at the Bayshore Hotel in Vancouver.
Jack Nicholson?
No.
Oh, different Nicholson. Okay, sorry.
And so, I was compelled to go there. I left my job site to go there that day. And it was really something I should not have done, and I never had done in the past. And I was just bothered so much by the idea that there was this protest going on and that I felt like I needed to be there. And so I left the job site and went down there from UBC all the way to downtown to the Weston Bayshore. And a small group of people there. It was a very surreal event in my life, actually, because there was only just a handful of people. They were all well dressed. I was in my construction stuff with work boots and the rest of it. And Jody Emery was there for the very first time at a protest in Vancouver. This young lady in high heels and a dress that was holding up this sign, whatever it said,
Oh, yeah, she liked to put signs up.
Yeah, that any politician in favor of prohibition is a criminal or something like that. I forget the exact wording of it, but I do know the sign that she was holding up there. It was one that we used a lot. But anyway, what blew me away about her was how long she held that above her head. But when David Malmo Levine arrived on the back of a tow truck, his friend was a tow truck driver, he was inside the cab, but on the back of the tow truck was all of the sound equipment that he had rented to have. And so he made the comment about something to do with our medicine right then when he was jumping up on the truck to get his gear down. And I remember it hit me really funny, like wow, he just called it medicine. Well, I've always just used it to get high and, to calm me down when I'm, too excited or, and to sleep at night or, da-da-da. Well, hey, that's medicine. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Kato.
Kato. And so, that was the first time I heard it called medicine. And there you go. There's a couple of stories on.
That's I thank you. I know the community would thank you. You've been an activist for I don't know how many years, but being on your 200th episode today is great. I'm glad to call you my brother from another mother.
Me too. Thank you very much.
I wish you.
It's been quite the journey for both of us.
It has.
We've been at so many events together, and seen a lot of the two of us.
420s, Cannabis Days, BC Bud Days, marijuana marches.
Holy Roller.
Hey, Holy Rolling. I've been doing Holy Roller for many
Hey,
years.
what are you doing? You want to hit?
I can't even roll joints anymore. I have to.
You rolled your fair share of joints, that's for damn sure.
Thousands and thousands. But yeah, again, I wish you blessings on your continued journey.
Well, hopefully not too long.
No, I thank the Creator and I ask the Creator to give you more strength and more wisdom for these dumb bureaucrats and all that. I look over the years, you've encouraged me, you've helped me many times, and just with your medicine and that, through my heart surgery and all that. And I now, I smoke it because I have no pain right now in my arm because of the marijuana, and but
It has been both
the
a
nerve-
blessing and a curse in both of our lives for a
Yeah.
long time. The plant itself is nothing but a blessing. But those policies that you've been working side by side with me to try to change for all this time, it's been quite the curse, really.
You're a good man. I don't care what Glenn said about you. That's how natives start war, eh? But yeah.
I'll watch for that. Hopefully I don't hear that someday in the future.
Oh yeah. But
I
yeah.
don't care what the government says about you. We still think you're a fine feller, Neil.
Oh yeah, the government. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
another
government.
story.
Yeah, what they say about me,
No, I wish they
you know,
just.
really, I wasn't the best human being, all my life. I had a dad that I rebelled against and his Christian values to some degree. I drank way too much before I was old enough. I broke those laws. I was just a normal human, everyday person that, looked out for myself and my family more than society probably. I don't know, but what I do know is that as I got older and in my later teens, I started to realize how other people felt when things were hurting them, and I didn't want to hurt those people or anybody like that, and I changed a bit that way. And then I had a wife, and that changed. I got married, that changed. Then I had kids, and there again, you want to be a good human for your kids. And then, that day, sitting just one block over when helping David renovate what was to be the herb school, and having all those epiphanies about, oh my God, this, the things I hadn't listened to the megaphone at the pot rallies, and realizing, just how horrible this whole thing is about these public servants that we even pay to protect us, using that money against us and to protect their friends, and not even allowing us access to a medicinal herb that for so many people, they need it really badly. And what they're stuck using in the way of alcohol or pharmaceuticals or nothing, is really harming them in a lot of different ways. And so all those revelations that happened to me that night, it really caused me to say to myself, to understand quite clearly that if I was going to do this, if I was going to now quit my job, and I was going to join David and the rest of the people here in Vancouver that were working real hard to try to end these laws, that I was going to have to be a model citizen, that I was going to have to make only choices that would reflect positively, not just on me, but on now all these other people that, were around me, and all those other people that we were representing as those that were willing to step up and speak. That if you're going to do that, you best not have any skeletons in your closet. And so, that's all helped me be a better human. So like I say, there's positives and negatives to this whole thing. I would have lived a much different life had I not that day had that epiphany and devoted my life to doing this. These last 25 years would have been very different. I would have ended up in a nice house with a nice car and a nice wife in a nice neighborhood with a flowing river to close by or something like that, because I was sort of on that path as a skilled carpenter and tradesperson. But, I opted for this because it was the right thing to do. And in the end, I'm a better human and I'm happy for it all. But the government, because they capitulated to these corporate forces that co-opted them through bribery and threats to lie, cheat, and steal from us to do with our accessing cannabis, and then what the penalties for doing so and all the rest
And
of
they
it.
can get away with it. But if we did that, we go to jail.
That's what I mean. That's all very frustrating. But,
I told the police
that's what it is.
officer, you take off your badge, put my shoes on for a change.
That's right. Walk a mile in a real
Just
person's
because you got a
shoes.
badge and a gun, you think this is the Wild Wild West,
And they justify it. It's human nature to justify things. If there's a breakup, you're going to hear one side of the story is going to be all the bad things the other person did, and that's all the other person is going to tell you too. You won't get the true story, almost never, from a breakup of that intensity. But all through life, many of those biases that come through there. And if you've decided to be a police officer for whatever reason, I don't think most of them decided to be a police officer so that they could bully pot smokers. I don't think so.
No.
But that becomes the job. And you go through it all and you get the job. And part of the job and part of getting the job is the brainwashing that goes along with it of how you should do the job and who you should be obeying, whether you should obey your inner conscience or whether you should obey what it says in the book. And they justify these things. They say, well, the people elected these governments and these governments made these laws. So therefore that's what the people want, Well, for one thing, not all the people vote those people in who make those laws, and the people that get voted in a lot of times, they make laws that people never saw coming anyway, But not only that, I don't care how many people voted somebody into power in a democratic free society, those people don't get to overrule the rights of anybody else. They can want all they want. It doesn't mean that the government's going to enforce any of those wants. Unless what a person is doing is harming somebody or some other group, and not even group, it's just about individuals. Unless somebody's harming somebody else, there's no role for government to play in that. They're simply public servants that are there to make sure that we have a smooth, easy path to the grave, that we live our lives with some degree of protection from all the ills that can befall a person, because we are a society of people. And if somebody falls along the wayside and they can't support themselves as a society, as all brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and children of each other, that we want those people to be looked after. So we're okay with pooling a little bit of all of our money. It doesn't take very much. And we've got enough to help those people out that need help. And that's what government is supposed to be for.
That's what I told the people at City Hall in Vancouver, the councillors. I said, you know, you guys were elected in for a reason. You made promises. And now I give you an A+, and it's for you to keep that A+. And at that time, I was living in a really rundown hotel, and I went on YouTube twice at City Hall for better housing. And today I'm in one of those new better housings years later, and I don't pay rent because the government owed me, and BC Housing lied to me. So when you make a stand for something, and I see you making a stand for something you believe in, a flower, but it's so sad that our bureaucrats, you try to teach them that, but they don't really want to change, because change is difficult for them. They think they know it all because you work for the government, just like the cop knows it all because he has a gun. But if they could sit down with some elders and some people like you and I who've been there and done that, and learn that it's good medicine, you know, fighting for something we believe in, you know, instead of taking that pill.
I agree with you. It's very frustrating, and it burns a lot of people out. I have, a bit of a temperament and a belief system that allows me to deal with frustration like that to a degree. I learned real early on that when I was working with David, we were putting on the 420 rallies and the Cannabis Day rallies and the Global Marijuana March, that 6 people would tell you honestly to your face in all sincerity, and they believed it themselves, that they were going to be there for you, and then they wouldn't show up. I mentioned it earlier on the show. A lot of people say they're going to be there and then they don't. It is just, I don't know if it's human nature. I think it is. I just accepted it. I accepted that that's the case. And same thing in dealing with the government. We get a lot of no's, but we get some yeses. In fact, our record in the Supreme Court of Canada is pretty damn good when we've taken the government to court. Their response has never been what it should have been, and we still find ourselves in a situation where we have legal weed that the cartel controls, and we have illegal weed that's anybody but the cartel, and you're in serious trouble just like you ever were for dealing outside of the cartel throughout all prohibition. None of that's changed. So we still got all that going on. But I've watched little gains here and there. I've watched as public opinion has shifted. I've watched as, the Trudeau Liberals won a majority government from non-opposition status on a platform of legalizing cannabis. Now, they didn't legalize it the way that most people thought they were, except for Freddie Pritchard and a few people like that saw that, we weren't going to get what it was that we thought we were winning after all. We should have won. We deserved to win. But the Trudeau version of legalization is not what we had been fighting for at the 420 rallies and the Cannabis Day rallies. It's not, an end to our protests at all. This is a hostile takeover of the cannabis industry by a violent cartel that have unlimited resources. You know where they came from, and they're trying to take over, running a protection racket with our money as best they can. And so all the people that were involved in prohibition on both sides before, all of the dealers and the growers that were not legal before legalization and are still illegal after legalization, they're still in business because there's still demand for their products. They had supply chains set up. They were illegal growing cannabis or selling cannabis before legalization. They're not going to quit after legalization, because if they don't, what they're doing will be illegal. It was illegal to begin with. So that is all still intact and going strong out there. While on the other side of the prohibition mechanism is all of the prohibitionists the courts, the cops, the drug dogs, all the different apparatus that they have in place there, the jails and the rest of it, that process all of these criminal cannabis growers and dealers and users, all at public expense. That all still gets to happen again. It's still all going on. All those people are still making money because there's all this illegal cannabis out in the environment, because that's the way it's been structured, because that's the way that they want it. So if your brother is busted for having a grow room and supplying a group of people, and they're going to take his home away, well, yeah, you should feel bad for him, and you should recognize what's going on there. He's not any more of a criminal than he ever was, and he never was. This is
Fucking cats.
we love our cats here. Sometimes we think of feelings
I knew that
mutual.
was gonna happen. He was behind it all the time.
We didn't give him his treats to start the show. I think that's what's going on. He wants his
I was
treats.
pissed off because I kicked him off the chair too.
Oh, man. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah.
great stuff. I appreciate you taking the time as you have throughout all of this. You've been one of the earlier guests on the show back almost 4 years ago now, and a regular contributor, and so much of a regular contributor to all the different things that we do here. I can't imagine how our protests and our marches and our rallies would have been without you there. Like, you've just added, a level of wisdom and character that, that nobody else brings to the table. So we're going to miss you if you're really going to take off a year from now. I'm hoping I'm coming with you. I want to get this thing done. I want to get the government to capitulate to us, to understand that we're the ones that they're supposed to be protecting, and they're not doing it because our brothers and sisters don't have reasonable access to cannabis, and especially those edibles of a sufficient dose during a public health emergency. This can't be the way that it is. I won't rest until this all changes. So, I hope it's done a year from now.
For Halloween, at least. Halloween.
Halloween.
I like to do that, yeah.
Well, it looks like long before Halloween, we're going to have ourselves a judicial review of our situation.
Yeah,
I know you will be there,
I'll be there.
and that'll be entertaining court drama, I'll tell you.
I can put native roadblock up around the courthouse.
We'll see what happens. Get the Native brothers there, and
Right?
make sure everybody gets their cupcake.
When is it?
J-Mac, I see. J-Mac, sure. We'll see J-Mac when we go outside.
That's what I'm saying to Kevin, yeah.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be able to get him in here, but if we go
We're not going to
outside.
do that, but
Yeah, all right.
I don't think we're going to have too much of a longer show than we normally would. But thanks, landlord.
Yeah,
I appreciate it
thanks,
much.
Neil, for everything, bro.
Lovely.
You're a good man.
Together
I
we'll
don't
change.
care
the
what
world.
Adam said about you.
Yeah, well,
There's your
speaking of Adam, I think Adam's here.
Yeah.
Adam's here.
How's it going, brother?
I'm all right. How about you?
Well, it's life is a bunch of dichotomies. That's what I can say. At any given moment, I could be in somewhat depths of anger at a corporate system that we're living under that I hate a lot, or I could be in a height of excitement and euphoria just by being in the presence of people that I appreciate and doing things that I love and knowing
Maybe,
we're making a difference here in a cruel world. So
Maybe in the form of phone calls at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m.
we're not going to talk about that.
It was,
We should probably.
yeah. No, I wasn't putting you on the spot. I just thought it was funny.
Well,
We shared some laughs that night for sure.
It's always been a show that has tried to bring awareness to different things within the society that people need to
That's
know
a good.
about.
That's a good.
And
yeah.
I was oblivious because it hadn't happened to me. But I got to take a course the other night. It was relatively expensive, but it could have been much more expensive. I ended up paying about $360 to learn the lesson. And the lesson is really cheap and easy because I'm going to give it to you for free. And all you got to do is remember it. So you could write it down, put a poster on the wall. It's really easy. Doesn't take much.
Have a
When
guy
your
like Adam.
when your computer freezes up and Microsoft is sending you a message on your computer to phone a number, here's what you write down on the note on the wall. Don't phone the number.
Turn the computer off.
Turn your computer off.
Call Adam.
Do not phone the number. Have somebody like Adam who knows his stuff advise you as to whether or not that's really Microsoft sending you a message to call them and going to
It
charge you money for cleaning up your computer from the virus that some nasty people tried to install on you. And thankfully, Microsoft locked up your computer and you were smart enough to call them. No, don't call them.
I honestly thought it was hilarious just because you were laughing the whole time. You had
What are you gonna do?
You had eaten some mushrooms earlier that night.
well, I would have laughed anyway because that's how I am.
But absolutely, but it was like hyena laugh. Like
You don't cry
the whole-
about these things.
No.
Hey, we've got
Well,
another.
it was an important lesson, and it was like, holy crap, are you kidding me? That could actually be fake?
Yeah.
Like, they
They're
look,
super good.
they're slick
They're
as can be.
really, really
The
good.
graphics are all very professional.
Yeah.
The person on the other end of the phone, very nice, polite, and very slick, man, I'll
Yeah.
tell you.
And you know what? After reading up,
We were going to meet and have coffee later on down in California one year.
I bet. I bet you were. Hey, he was going to try and sell you a bridge, probably.
The professor would like to join in on this
Oh,
conversation
yeah.
too. I'm going to try. Well, I'm going to try to add him. We don't
All
sure
right,
if
we'll
it's
try
going
to
to
add
work.
him, and
All right, all right.
we'll deal with Adam, and then we'll try
Yeah,
to do
we'll
what
try.
we're going to try to work two Adams in there.
You
Yeah.
could just do
But
a video call with him.
that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, no. We're trying to add him to the live feed, but I told him that we were having problems today. So,
Okay.
Of all days to have problems. We had more technical problems today
yeah,
than any
I
other.
could fire up the
That's
tablet.
because there's so much going on right now.
Oh, I know. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a much more.
Yeah, it's not working. It's not working.
But
You know, you were talking about the terribleness that is legalization, and I've been thinking about it. It's not legalization; it's monopolization.
Yeah.
And
it's a hostile cartel that's come in and taken
yeah,
over.
absolutely.
Yeah.
To an industry that's already
Well
had-
established.
Yeah, exactly. It's got its roots.
It was
and-
vibrant, well established, and it would be very, very difficult to uproot. Trudeau said he was going to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
I watched the words come out of his mouth. His lips were moving. They formed the words.
Mhm.
He said, our legalization will end the underground marketplace because our prices will undercut anything that's available. And
Wow.
why would you, and I'm adding this, why would you go to some underground
Yeah.
supplier when you can walk into a store and the prices are cheaper and the product is better
Really
and
missed the
everything you
mark,
want
though,
is
didn't
right
they?
there?
Really missed the mark, though,
Well,
didn't they?
maybe he meant it, but he certainly never produced it. That's for sure.
Well, it's all for them.
Wow.
It's all for them. You know.
It is. It's by the rich for the rich. That's what this
Well,
is. It's
yeah.
not by the people for the people. It's certainly not by the cannabis people for the cannabis
Yeah,
people.
right.
That's for
Right.
damn sure.
Yeah.
And it's not for anybody but the rich, really. I mean, I guess it's for the average person. If you're average and you can afford $10 a gram, and most average people could, because that
Yeah.
was the going
Yeah,
price
yeah, for
before
sure.
legalization.
Long time.
So they didn't raise the price terribly much, but they didn't bring it down to where it should be, based on what it costs a dollar per foot to produce.
$1 per foot.
Dollar
Yeah,
per
like
foot, yeah. That's what
Wow.
the business magazine on cannabis was talking about, what the growers can expect,
Oh.
the cultivators, what the cultivators can expect $1 per foot
So
of
what
their
would they
cannabis
expect
grow.
then? $1 per foot.
I didn't read on from there.
Didn't click through. eh?
Yeah, I didn't have time. It was one of those things that came up late when we were prepping for the show here. And so I couldn't see what they were expecting $1 per foot.
I
But,
don't even know how you would try and even calculate that.
well, there is actually calculations by economists with respect to cubic meters, how much you can produce per cubic meter.
Yeah.
And, you can get so many strawberries in a cubic meter. You can get so many blueberries in a
I guess
cubic
so.
meter. And cannabis
So many
is
different
right at the
variables.
top of
right?
there.
Yeah. So
Lots
many
of different variables.
Yeah.
But they're talking $1 per foot. And, what I knew they wouldn't have in there was any comparisons to $1 per foot for lima beans or tomatoes.
Right. I bet not. I bet
Or
not.
even blueberries or strawberries.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because it's such a weird world where they've got people so hypnotized and most people don't get it. The only reason that the price of cannabis is up where it is in the government stores is because of government regulations that require it to cost that much. That's it.
Well, on top of taking their dollar out.
Well, that's why they require it to cost that much.
Yeah.
They've got to take their cut at the next level of government, the next level of government, and all these different wholesalers and all these different retailers. They've all got to get their cut. And so, and there's probably a little bit of corruption along the way, so they're taking a little more. So it probably doesn't cost as much, even though the packaging looks ridiculously expensive. But probably those people that are are involved in the contracts for packaging the legal cannabis,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
they're probably boosting the price up a little
Well,
bit.
you see
You
some
know,
of the packaging they use.
I would imagine there's some shady business practices going on to it all boosts the price in all these different ways, so that by the time it gets to the retail outlet, it is like super expensive, eh?
Like, they don't really get to choose what they're buying for a lot of it either.
Well, they get to
It's
choose
kind of-
from a limited assortment of things.
Well, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, well, limited, especially
And
compared
and
to,
all controlled in BC through the Cannabis Control Branch, which is ludicrous to begin
and then
with.
they'll let it sit there for months on end.
But yeah, I mean, there's just it's government affairs. So for those people who don't understand, or if you know people who don't understand, you can talk in basic terms about farmers growing plants and what it costs to produce that plant and bring it to market.
Yeah.
And you know, if they need all that money for cannabis, then how the hell do the cabbage farmers live?
Mm.
Like, you know, what they're getting for a
grow-
head of cabbage and what they can produce in a cubic meter with cabbage
Yeah.
is so far below what you can get in a cubic meter of cannabis. Incredible. Incredible.
And the turnover rate.
Incredible. So why can a cabbage farmer survive on pennies for the pound? And why would you not pay any more than $8 or $9, $10? I mean, nobody's paying more than $7 here in BC. Basically, there's like the odd exotic fruit that gets up there. And during the pandemic, there was some I think it was cherries that were like $9.99 a pound or something like that. But only rich people were buying that. I mean, nobody that had a family could afford that. So anyway, all of that is just government corruption and interference that's causing all of that. So all these people who really can't access cannabis of any quality that they need or any concentrate or edible that they need, a dose, is because of government interference, and that's that for that. So
Well, and I mean, 10 milligrams per package. It's ridiculous.
we got Sterling over there waiting in the wings. He's being very patient, I see.
What's up, my brother?
Thanks. We can hear him if he comes.
Yeah, I know. I heard it a couple times.
So we
I was
don't
waiting for it.
really need to.
I'm just sitting here enjoying this beauty of some, I guess, what the legal industry would call illegal or contraband or whatever.
You want me to move around?
Is it local? Yeah, people at home need to see him and they can't.
All right, you won't be able to see him,
Much as
but
I
you know what he
appreciate
looks like,
looking
right?
at Sterling.
Oh, I know what both of them look like. What's up, everybody?
All right, we can see him.
We're not
Realization.
We're not going to get into, Adam and your history and all this stuff. We did that on the
Oh,
show
yeah,
before. We'll do that again and revisit it. But suffice to say that you've been a great contributor to the CSP, to what we're doing here. Now you're volunteering at the RV there, and we really appreciate what you do. You provide edibles for people, and that's a mission from the heart. It happened because you quit your real job, if you want to call it that, because you recognize the value of your edibles in helping people that really needed help. And so I thank you so much for all your efforts that we've talked about and that you're doing. And thanks for being here whenever I need you. And then on the other end of a phone when I get scammed by somebody. Although I should have not. Don't phone the phone number. That's what you write on the wall.
Just make sure you have it.
I should have just not done it right away, right? Like I should have just called Adam first and said, hey, I got Microsoft wants me to call them. And should I
say Microsoft doesn't want you to call them?
Yeah. And so anyway, he put the phone. He said, "What phone number did they get you to call?" And he put it in his little thing there right away. And it comes up as a scam number. And so yeah, don't phone the number when it comes up on the screen. If they blocked your computer up, just turn your computer off. Wait 10, 30, whatever you feel comfortable with. Turn it back on. Try it.
Yeah, and then find an Adam.
And then find an Adam or call Microsoft, through a number that is Microsoft.
For sure, absolutely.
All right.
No, I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Congrats on the 200.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been a terrible, hard job.
I've been celebrating all day. I had product testing to do.
Finally got here.
There, take your muffin. Take your cupcake. There you
I don't
go.
think I was an hour in before I was eating mushrooms.
There you go.
As with the muffins, people, don't try those at home.
I got your thing.
All right, we can move Sterling over a bit. Anniversary's not totally.
So there's
there you go.
So Sterling, my friend,
How are you doing there, Neil?
are you in sunny Saskatchewan?
I sure am, and it was sunny and hot today, a high of 31 degrees.
Wow, that'll melt your
Yeah,
chocolates.
Great,
Yep.
great. Thankfully, I was in a giant air-conditioned home, which wasn't mine. So,
Good. I don't mean about it not being yours, but I mean, at least you're in an air-conditioned home. That's all good. So what's going on with you, my brother?
going on with me, Well, a little birdie named Glenn told me it's your 200th episode, bud.
That's what they tell me too. I don't believe them.
Neither do I. But,
That doesn't seem
apparently you've been
possible.
doing this for a while.
That does not seem possible.
Hey, but those things to which that we think are impossible end up being possible.
Some of them do.
Just a little bit of passion and a little bit of heart to go along with it.
I believe there are those things that are impossible, and there are those things that are possible that people think are impossible. And you don't know till you try. And sometimes there's great benefit in just the trying. And we were talking a little bit moments ago about the effect that you have, and where it's frustrating because you come up against these corrupt governments and these corrupt courtrooms, but that ripple effect that you never really know. If you get 1 in 6 people coming out when they say they're going to, that's one person that has been inspired that will do who knows what. If you only get 1 in 6 and you do 60 people, well, you still got 10 people there. So you can form an army that way, and it's okay. But you never know what you do and who it's going to affect and how you can change the world. So you just got to keep trying if you think it needs to be done. And you've done a lot of that lately. You were at Vancouver recently for Cannabis Day. What did you think of that fiasco?
Well, I haven't seen something like that since 2015?
Yeah, 2015. It was similar.
Yeah, somewhere in there. The fiasco. The fact that we were locked out of the park. We could have cut chains, we could have lifted fences, but
we could have.
We're supposed to be there as peaceful protesters. Sometimes protesting requires a good push. But for whatever reason, we decided, you know what? We're not going to push that hard today. We're gonna test the waters. And what happened when we tested the waters? Well, look who came storming in. The CSU, along with their lackeys, the Vancouver Police Department. And we all know about the Vancouver Police Department. And if you don't, you should do yourself a favor and Google all the types of things that they've done to people, especially those people who are lower on the totem pole,
Exactly.
or at risk, or low income, or no income, or living on the street,
or the cannabis community for all this time as well.
Right.
Maybe less brutal than the Calgary cops, maybe less brutal than some of the OPP, but still. Much oppression of the cannabis community over all the time that I've been involved in this. You want to give them kudos because they allow for 420 to happen when, they're just standing on the corners watching and they got people up on buildings taking, video and shit. And you want to say, oh, thank you, VPD, for being so tolerant, Well,
yeah.
We found out on Cannabis Day that if they could have, they would have. They just didn't know how to do it because we had more numbers than they were able to deal with. But once they had us reduced down the way that they did by fencing off the park, which deterred a lot of people from coming down, by having an army of well-armed and padded officers intimidating anybody who did show up, they chased away a lot of people who came down, saw that, turned around and went away. So, I guess they were smart. And they did manage to cut down our numbers to the point where they could brutalize us for the rest of the day there, the way that they did. But we'll see what happens on Saturday. We got Plan B and we got Plan C, and we're not going away anytime soon without making sure that we're all going to end up in jail if we don't. So come on down. Not you, because I know you're in Saskatchewan, but everybody who can come on down to Thornton Park Saturday, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And bring your tent, bring your wares. Let's do our thing. Let's see what happens. And we'll all talk amongst ourselves, not with the VPD this time. And we'll have some other things to be able to do, depending on what they decide to do. Come on down. It should be fun.
I have to reduce Sterling for a minute because we've got somebody trying to sell again.
Oh, dear.
I know, people. But we can still hear them. Yeah, we got you. Don't worry. Oh. The other thing is maybe I might get 2 sounds here. Let's see.
I managed to, on Cannabis Day,
I got
managed to hurt a police officer's feelings so bad that he actually pulled me to the side. He said, why are you picking on me?
I might get 2 sounds.
I'm like, picking on you? I'm like, you've been picking on us. But, that's the way a roast goes, man. If you're at the top, you're the guy getting it.
Yeah.
And since since we were at the bottom, just trying to help the geese and help the people, all of a sudden, we're bad. We're so bad that we deserve fines.
You know, the biggest problem I have with the whole thing is the media ghosting us.
Well, did they ever ghost us? They didn't want that. They didn't want Vancouver or the outlying outskirts of Vancouver, the rest of Canada, seeing what they did. Of course not.
I know. So if you're out there somewhere in Canada, you don't know what happened, go to somebody's Facebook page. There's ways to find lots of video about that. For me, it's farther down on my page. You'd have to go back to that date. It's a few weeks ago now, or I think. But find that video and share it. Share those videos out. Let's make sure everybody does know that there was an incident against peaceful protesters on Canada Day of all days.
Yep.
To try
Canada Day.
Yeah, a day when we're supposed to be proud of a government that is supposedly tolerant of protests and people having their say, and instead it's quite the opposite. When push comes to shove, they're not even going to tell you about it.
Well, not only will they not tell you about it, but they don't want you to know about what they used to do. Right? They call it Canada.
Yeah.
And Canada Day, but look at what they did in order to make it theirs, right? And landlord can attest to that because he's of First Nations descent, and they've been known for trampling on people and their rights. Yeah,
they've never been a government that stood up for the disabled or the marginalized or the minorities in any way. It's terrible. When you look at the history of Canada, there's a lot to be ashamed about with respect to our governments. The people of Canada were oblivious for the most part. We all bought the bill of goods that they were selling us, that the media in Canada was selling us for the most part, although there was a lot more stories back in the day of government corruption, although I'm not sure there was as much about what they were doing with the Indian Act or with the Families Law and stuff like that. And even today, we don't get enough of those stories yet. But we don't have a lot to be proud of really in Canada here. The federal governments, they can be proud successively for a number of them at being clever enough to pull the wool over the people's eyes in Canada and the rest of the world and getting everybody to think that we're just this great place where you can trust your government. Not a chance.
Yep, I agree. But, the other thing too is we're young here. Canada is the youngest country in the world by, population and when things happen. And the people here haven't really experienced oppression yet, right? And I think it's going to take something very drastic. We're starting to really see it and starting to see people fight back. And it's just on a myriad of different things, right? Because the government's trying to do so much to us and get away with it.
I know. There's a lot to be upset about on several different fronts here. They really kind of keep us distracted with all of that. There's groups that form and try to do things about it, but you're not about to have any violent revolutions going on. Not that I'm a fan of violent revolutions, but back in the day, if the tyrant of the day had gone to the lengths that have been gone to, I think, in Canada by our governments here, that you would have had an uprising for sure.
Oh, you mean like back when Trudeau's dad was in charge?
No, I mean back long before that,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When violent revolutions happened, when governments were overthrown violently by the people that couldn't stand to pay that much tax anymore or whatever it was, these things don't get resolved that way anymore. The ruling parties have too much power and leverage, and so we're able to be oppressed the way that we are. And I think we're like, we're like frogs thrown into tepid water and then turn the temperature up. And, they've been making it worse and worse and worse. And it's become more and more obvious for anybody paying attention just how much these governments have power over us and how they're not, serving our best interests. But we're all in boiling water and we don't even know it. And nobody knows what to do about it anyway. And who knows what it is possible to do things about. I don't really know. I know for my end, all I'm trying to do here is get the government to allow for the poor people and the sick people, for people to be able to get cannabis at a price that represents what it would cost to bring it to market, which would be fair and a lot lower than what it is now. And for those that want to buy expensive connoisseur cannabis, that's fine. That'll always be in the marketplace as well. I'm not threatening those people. I'm just saying that the regular average person, and especially the poor people and the sick people, They need stores to go into where they're not going to be gouged when they can get a really valuable commodity for them at a price that matches their budgets. And there's no reason why they can't have that. All this government interference that isn't allowing that to happen is nothing more than a protection racket for the corporate financial bastards that want control of all this. So anyway, there you go. I love you people getting me ranting, by the way. It's
Got 4 minutes to 6.
it's what it's all about.
Oh, 4 minutes to 6. Well, you know what that means,
It
right?
means I gotta thank you so much for everything over the years and for coming on the show and kind of wrap things up a little bit here.
Well, you know what? And again, congratulations on your 200th show. I know Glenn's 198th show today, right, Glenn?
It is, yes.
Right. So we might have to have another celebration as well. I just want to, speak and say one quick thing, that where we met, Neil, was the PMHC. And I think that the one person we have to thank for that is Mr. Jeffrey Lundstrom.
Absolutely. He was on the show earlier.
My hat's off.
And he'll be here next week.
Glenn, right?
Yeah.
To you, Glenn, to you, Neil, everybody else involved, and to Jeffrey Lundstrom for introducing us at one point in time. So I hope for many, many more moons, and I'll catch you on the flip side when I'm back in town.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you as soon as we can.
All right. And then I think we should thank the audience.
Well, I'll get to that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So really happy that everybody's tuned in to watch today, and this is a much different show than our typical shows. At this point in the show, or usually a little bit earlier than this, I do like to give a little bit of a summary about what this is all about. It's a show called Truth, Hope, and Change, and primarily over its nearly 4 years now, it's circled around the CSP, the Cannabis Substitution Program, and our efforts to get the government to give proper legalization, which is low barrier access. That's the new mantra. We've gone from legalize and regulate to low barrier access, and low barrier on both sides of the coin, so that it's not only easy for a poor, a sick, an average person to be able to walk into a storefront and access cannabis in all of its different forms and satisfy their needs reasonably, but it's for people that want to get into the marketplace as well. That all these ridiculous restrictions that are put on by governments along the way with respect to the production of cannabis doesn't need to be there any more than it needs to be there for the production of coffee or lima beans or any other commodity that farmers bring to market. And if regulation is required, if peppers are hot, maybe you want to have a little sign that says these are hot peppers. When it comes to concentrates and edibles, a little warning that you want to start low and go slow, and that you can eat too much of this stuff and then not operate equipment or whatever. But all of those things are terribly, terribly easily done, as we know, for all sorts of things where it's done for. That's what needs to happen, and so that's the journey that we're on. For the Cannabis Substitution Program, it's been 6.5 years since it started. It started just giving out care packs of 4 to 6 edibles and a couple of joints to people that would line up, and that went on for a few years. Thanks to the City of Vancouver passing a motion to support our efforts, we got a storefront and started operating from the storefront, only to have the City of Vancouver tell us that they're not going to give us a license, and therefore we can't do that until the federal government gives us a license. And we've been for over almost 3 years now since we applied for that license. And so the show's been all about just following that progress or lack of progress with Health Canada and exposing how corrupt that they are, in that they're not trying to help. They're not trying to facilitate people who are actually helping. Their only concern is monetary, to do with those people that are wanting to make money out of the legal cannabis monopoly, the government cartel. And so that is disgusting. That is beyond the belief of most Canadians, I would think, that our health, federal health department is only interested in the financial health of the government operated stores and willing to allow people to die and suffer and do without simply to accomplish that. It is beyond disgusting for sure. So once not allowed in the store, we had to get an RV because the program that we started at Vandu, which was a couple days a week for a few years, once we had the store for almost 6 months, it was 6 days a week. And so now all these people relying on the CSP provides cannabis to the members, about 250 plus, 269 now, 420 milligrams every 4 days they come and get for free, thanks to amazing donators that have kept this going all the way through this. It's been an incredible display of the cannabis community supporting this endeavor to try to address the public health emergency, the crisis that is the overdose crisis, with thousands, tens of thousands of people dying of fatal overdoses, and far, far more than that, suffering overdoses that are life-changing, life-altering, leaving people desperately disabled and unable to function properly. And that seldom even gets mentioned in the overdose crisis. It's just about the deaths, but it's far more than just about the deaths. And cannabis, we have proven and we've been demonstrating for all of this time, is a way out of the addiction to those things, which is real, that is serious. It is the addiction to those drugs that is resulting in all of the mayhem. People can't stop using those drugs without going through a terrible physical withdrawal period. And that is where it doesn't happen for most people most of the time. And they keep having to go back and relapse and continue to use because they can't break beyond that barrier. And cannabis helps people do that primarily in the form of edibles of sufficient dose for that to happen. And so we continue to demonstrate every day for all of this time, not deterred or stopped by the federal government's delinquency in not providing us a license for all this time, and no longer not deterred either by the federal government now telling us that we can't have a license, we can't be doing what we're doing, and that we should just turn our backs on these hundreds of people that come here daily and rely on us, and we should somehow, just be cold to the reality of the despair that these people will be forced into, and the actual truth that many of them, to deal with their issues, having no other way to deal with them, would be forced back into the poisoned and hard drug supply. So it is unconscionable that the federal government would say no to us, especially after we've successfully demonstrated for all of this time. I mean, how much of a demonstration does it take? It's not a theory, it's not an idea, it's not a proposal. What we're doing, we've been doing, we continue to do, we will continue to do, but all of it every day demonstrates the value and the need for what's going on here. It is crucial that we be able to continue doing what we're doing. It is completely unethical and would be criminal of us to stop in any real world. But the world we're living in is not the real world of reason. It's the world of corruption. And so here's where we are. Let's see how it goes. We're running on fast out of time. We'll do a quick, brief outside visit and then start another 200 shows.
201.
My goodness. The weekly THC weather report again in Vancouver is beautiful, unless you're a tree or a plant needing some water. There hasn't been a lot of that. There's not a lot of that on coming on the horizon.
No.
Just more and more beautiful days that, it's nice to be here, and that's the way it is, but don't come because there's already way too many people and it's a mess here. How are you doing?
Brava.
Thank you. This is our 200th show. Talk TV. And this is our 200th show. Do you use the RV? Okay, well that's fine. Thanks for saying
No,
hello
I was
anyway.
just walking by and wanted to say hello to my partner. Thank you for helping the neighborhood and supporting people in need.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. You are so. Not now. But
Hey, well listen, thanks so much and thanks for supporting the neighborhood.
you certainly were the guy for this. Oh yeah.
There you
An
go.
impromptu
Give
background.
us us. And there's J-Mac.
J-Mac.
You made it.
I just kind of cut the line a little bit, he thought, but I'm not a line cutter, as you know.
I was just saying.
It was a good observation. Thanks, and please always do that.
I was just
Boom.
That was an awesome win.
Thank you.
Hey, J-Mac. How's it going?
Guys, 200 episodes of Neil Magnuson on show. Truth, hope, and change. This truth gives me hope that we can change. So,
Nicely
Neil,
said.
thank you again, partner, for everything you do.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Watch out when you're pulling out.
And, yeah, so I'll show you what you have done to me in the last 5 years so has been remarkable, and I am 100% glad to be a part of the CSP story and CSP Vancouver as a volunteer. And for you, I want to say thank you to you for what you have done, and congratulations to the 200 show.
J-Mac, we've known each other for a long time. I've watched you do nothing but improve as a human being for all of that time. And we could have been a part of that, and to help you gives me a great warmth in my heart. So
Well,
thank you, and all the best for the years to come with us.
well, like I said earlier, cannabis has saved my life. And whenever I had one of nothing that was 250 milligrams, and I feel perfect right now.
Nice.
Like,
You want another one to take home with you? Okay.
one milligram.
One cupcake.
When I use cannabis, I use it not to get high. I use it purely for the drink. Once I take it off, I put down my dad down, my that and I put down. Because I used to be on 56 different pills. 27 years. Up until 8 or 9 years ago, when I started using cannabis heavily, I was taking up to 57 pills a day.
How many pills are you taking now?
Zero.
Zero. There you go. There you go.
And I'm not my doctor in 2 years
Good.
because he knows me.
Yeah.
He knows that if I get sick, I'll come see him.
Yeah.
I have not
Honestly,
been
J-Mac,
sick.
you look healthier now than I think I've ever seen you.
Yeah.
I'm healthier now than I ever fucking me. But COVID was the worst. COVID was the worst for me.
Yeah.
Because I was stuck at home and I couldn't get meds. But now COVID is done, I'm out and up every day. I move my stuff from my channel on YouTube, my channel on Twitch. May I promote myself? May I give my talent? May I promote my channel? Sure. I have a YouTube channel called JMS Company, and I have a Twitch channel called JMS Company on Twitch.
Okay.
I do my own thing, like, so it's like an ASMR game. So,
Very good.
All right.
Well, all the best
Okay.
with that.
We'll
Thanks for
see you
coming
later,
on the
J-Mac.
show.
Thank you.
Thanks for years of service. And
Yes.
Doing more shows, guys.
Doing more shows. All right.
I love you.
a standing representative to the actual benefits of
That's it.
cannabis.
Yep.
100%.
Thank you, J-Mac. Talk to everybody.
So, yeah. Here's the humble RV.
Yep.
Broken front window, broken side window, but we're carrying on, and all is well. I think now's a good time. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
We do try to advertise what we're doing here as best we can. There's a lot of traffic on this road, including a lot of police officers and people going back and forth to the courthouse. So, you know, we want to put our signs out always and make sure they know what's going on. We're not trying to hide them. Oh my goodness. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. How are things?
A little bit warm, but
Yeah.
other than that, good.
Yeah. That's actually not too bad in here.
No, we got the fan
But I can
running
feel
on.
it. Yeah, I can feel the heat for sure.
Well, happy 200th anniversary.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dexter.
Congratulations. Making this.
It's been really hard, so I deserve a pat on the back.
There you go.
Yeah, 200 of them. Yeah.
Instead of birthday bumps, it's addiction patch.
So yeah, there we go. Here we are. You know, not your usual episode, but really, really happy for everybody that came on and watched the show today and has watched the show in the past. I can't thank the people that watch it more. I mean, without you, we wouldn't do the show. If I really wasn't reaching anybody, then you know, I wouldn't be here flapping my gums. It's been basically 400 hours of me flapping my gums repeatedly, saying similar things over and over again for 200 episodes, and I got to thank a lot of people for that. There's Cannabis Culture, of course, because that's how this all started. Jeremiah Vandermeer, who was the one who convinced me that perhaps there was things that I was saying to people that other people should hear en masse if possible, and I should do a show. I must say, after 200 shows, I'm okay with it, but I don't look forward to it. It's not like I'm excited every day, although sometimes I am excited that I do get to get some things off my chest. But I'm always nervous about it, and I always, you know, I'm never very confident. I'm never as prepared as I think I should be. And so that doesn't seem to change, and I guess it's not going to change. But also, we won't change what we're doing until we get to the end of it. It's been a long journey. It seems to be heating up and getting a little more interesting. Where, as I said, we're going to have a judicial review coming up fairly quickly now of Health Canada's refusal of our application. And then shortly after that, in early October, we are going to be facing a charter challenge. Actually, we're the ones launching the charter challenge, because they had us facing charges of selling without a license. So interesting times ahead, and thank you to Cannabis Culture, to Jeremiah, and Neil, who is the producer of the show for so long, leading up to where Glenn took over, and to Glenn, of course, for being a contributor on so many levels to what we're doing here and what I'm doing here. Couldn't have done it without him, I'm sure. It certainly wouldn't have been the same, and it's really great with him. And
Thank you. It's really great with you too.
And all the donators to the CSP, the 20 or more people that have worked for the CSP as volunteers here, the continuing donators, the donators of the past. So many people helped in so many ways. So many people are continuing to do that. A big shout out to the Halifax East Coast CSP that you know, I don't mention anywhere near enough. We should do a program on them.
Yep.
We will. There's also what's going on in Surrey and Newton now, 2 different chapters of the CSP. To Mary McCarty,
Soon to be a Langley one too.
our baker for so long, that deserves mention, and she's now just sort of hidden herself in Winnipeg there, you know, trying to get things on track, I would imagine. I don't know, because we don't get to talk too much. But Mary, a huge contributor, and probably will be continuing. I don't want to start naming names, I mean, but Dana Larson, the medicinal cannabis dispensary, Twisted Extracts, just on and on and on and on the list goes. I can't, there's so many big ones that I'm not mentioning right now because I didn't make a list, and I can't list them all. We're over time on the show anyway, but you know, maybe one day I'll do a show devoted to trying to put together a list of people that have helped.
They know who they are.
And yeah, they know who they are. And I'm sorry, I don't know who y'all are. There's just been so many of them over such a long period of time that I'm bound to be forgetting lots of people that have come along and helped us in so many ways. So, so many are coming to mind right now, but I'm not going to start naming names because, you know, like I said. But
it's the blue one.
Thanks to everybody that makes the show happen. Thanks to everybody that continues the fight for freedom, whatever that form that may take, in wherever you are around the world. At this point in history, it's never been more important that we as a planet understand the nature of freedom and fight those that would take that away on whatever front that is. And on our front, it's the cannabis availability, you know, that needs to be there. And if it's not there, then there's a huge amount of damage that's being done, because the cost to make it to so that it's not there, that enforcement would harm so many people and cost so much money if they actually were able to clamp down on all of the illegal cannabis stuff that's going on there, because it's just a plant that grows easy, it's worth money, people want it, people aren't getting it, they buy it. So supply and demand would demand that there is a lot of damage, a lot of cost and harm being done on that side of it. And on the other side of it, the people that can't, that would have otherwise got the benefits of cannabis are so great that this is just the hugest of issues. One of many, though, that needs to be addressed. And if it's one that strikes a chord with you, then as always, I say do what you can, help out where you're able. There's great reward and benefit in being part of trying to solve a problem that you can see. And this, any way you look at it, is a huge problem for ordinary taxpayers, or especially for the sick or the addicted, or you name it, on and on it goes. We've tried to name them all many times during the show. I could go on for hours. That's the biggest problem. Thanks for staying late if you did. Thanks for all the help that we've had over the years from everybody that's provided it. Thanks for all the things that you people out there are going to do in the future, because I believe that this will continue and more people will become a part of this. And if you want to become a part of it and experience the positivity of feeling like you're dealing with something that's important and you're making a difference, maybe, then do whatever you think you can. Get involved with people you think are on the same path. Write letters, make phone calls, emails, etc. I mean those ones off. Who knows? I used to make up 4x8 sheets of plywood that said "Gas the Jail Conspirators" and put it out by Rush Hour Traffic many moons ago. Whatever you think you can do to further the education of the rest of our brothers and sisters about how corrupt this world is that we're living in, and how much we need to have this particular issue solved. In my mind, if we can't get our public servants to back off and just allow for the marketplace to have cannabis provided and produced at whatever it costs to do that without all this expensive interference, then we are in no way free. We're not going to get most of the other things we want with respect to freedom. If this is going to be something they can get away with, they can get away with anything. So join the fight, do what you can, and look after yourself. Make sure that when you're going through life, you're kind to everybody, especially those that are hard to be kind to. They need it the most. And yourself, of course, forgive yourself. We've all just done the best we could with who we are and what we got. That means you too, and everybody that's harmed you in any way. Forgive everybody, forgive yourself, live in love. Most important, have as much fun as you can. Life's too short. See you next week.